All right, time to sit back, relax, and get ready. This one, if you didn't notice the time stamp of the video when you clicked on it, I already know this one's going to be a long one. The video we're reacting to is an hour and 20, almost 27 minutes. So, strap in, get ready to go. Subscribe, smash the like button, get a popcorn, a drink, or whatever snack you like, and get ready. Because here we go.
The reason we're here, and I don't think you would argue that this is unnecessary, the assassination in cold blood is an act of terrorism of Charlie Kirk. Is that political violence? You seem so confident on the Hortmans, but not Charlie Kirk.
I was just thinking about your question.
If that doesn't constitute political violence that could be answered in the affirmative immediately, of course, what would?
Hey YouTube, what you're about to watch is a new segment we call Change My Mind. Welcome back to Change My Mind. It's been a while. This is the place where we rationalize, we reason.
This table and this, him sitting there with the Change My Mind became such a meme. It blew up everywhere. Even if you don't know who Steven Crowder is, I'm new to him himself, but I knew of him, but I didn't know his name or that this was him until not too long ago, recent enough. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like the more you know, which is why I do these things. I sit here to learn and give my opinion, so I hope you sit and do the same.
Our positions on controversial topics. When I created Change My Mind in 2017, I had one goal in mind, and that was to shine a light on the institutions that had failed Americans. Often students propagandized by the educational system, as well as legacy media.
Mr. Trump's once again defending comments he made about the white supremacists and neo-Nazis.
There were very fine people on both sides.
The president's statement that both sides are responsible for the violence in Charlottesville.
It was designed to bring genuine dialogue to what had become an impenetrable echo chamber dominated by progressive professors.
Yeah, I even knew that the college age of students, just that era of your age, it's it's a whole hive mind. Even if you don't go to the colleges and don't go to the schools, if you simply just have to have a friend or two that do, and all of a sudden, throughout them, they can actually change how you are. And they say something, the news says something, and then everything just starts stacking. And you're like, well, I guess it's true. When in fact, your friend got it from the news that were both wrong.
Administrators, student leadership, along with the complicit media and big tech establishment. To put it simply, the kind of dialogue that evaded all of cable news.
I know you said that. 150 police officers got hurt.
You said I was being hyperbolic. Let me respond. I'm not. You being a white man as an insult?
That just shows you the ridiculousness of all of this.
And so, nearly a decade later, with billions of plays, countless discussions, inspired student iterations, one meme of the year, and yes, even a few changed minds later,
I somewhat changed your mind.
Change My Mind had grown far bigger than I ever initially anticipated. And with that came pushback, controversy, increasing hostility, and yes, straight up violence.
You piece of living garbage ass dumpster fire.
It got to the point where security became a serious issue.
The left is the violent ones, which is why I know I'm already going to love this video, because the left is such a violent party, and they preach that the right is the violent ones just because that's what the media has told them for years and years. Yes, sir? Just relax. I know. Years and years they've just been told the left is the party of peace. They're here for the people. The right is the violent ones. They always got some crazy right-winger. And yes, while there is some crazy right-wingers out there, that's not the majority like it is starting to become the left. If Charlie had had more security, maybe he'd be alive today. I'm sure that every single event like this now will have some kind of guy on a drone zipping it around, circling to keep watch of the area, keep an aerial view of the venue. It's like you probably have to have a couple drones or extra battery packs or something. But yeah, it's like, why should we have to do it this way? Because some people don't know how to sit and have a conversation. They only want to fight.
And so I pulled back. Now, given recent events, however, I felt led, compelled even, to bring it back. Voices like ours, and I mean ours, can't be silenced. And I say this to you watching on the left, made me do this. I didn't necessarily want to, and everyone told me that this, in today's climate, could not be done unless I took unbelievable precautions, unless it was absolutely kept a secret until mere hours before the event as a pop-up, unless I literally brought an army with me and bulletproofed the entire radius, which is exactly what we did.
Good. Sadly, that's just what's necessary to be able to use the First Amendment if you're on the right. You need this army of security guards, a bulletproof vest on, to be able to have, bulletproof glass nearby and a ton of armed security. It's like, we shouldn't need this much. The political landscape needs to calm down. The violence on the left needs to relax. The violent ones need to go home and get jobs.
And so today, for the first time in many years, Change My Mind returns, and back to one of the places where it all began, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. Today's subject is plain and simple. The left is violent. Will anybody be able to change my mind?
Thank you.
Good intro.
Stephen.
Yes.
Very solid intro. Good way to reintroduce the series and restart it back up.
So I'll take that. I mean, you're not maybe super familiar with what we do with this series. Let me just kind of clarify what it is. First, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not gotcha. It's not clickbait. This is not meant to be, or it won't be used to clip into some kind of a dunk or something to just foment people espousing the same rhetoric on one side. It will be uploaded contextually in its entirety, where hopefully we have a productive discussion.
Yes.
We rationalize our positions, reason them on controversial topics. Before I get to the premise of today, could you do me a favor just so we can find some common ground?
Yeah.
This is what's being cited right now quite a bit. Just the definition of political violence. I want to make sure we both agree on it.
Political violence are criminal complaints, indictments, and court records looking for crimes that seek a socio-political change or to communicate to outside audience.
And I'll summarize it. That's the technical description from the source cited.
Yeah.
It's violence as a tool being used toward a political end. In other
100%. That's a great way to summarize political violence down to one little sentence. You're wanting to, your means is a political one, or to silence someone else's.
In other words, just because you vote Democrat or because you vote Republican, if you accidentally hit someone with your car and commit manslaughter, that's not political violence. If you vote Democrat, but let's say you go out and run someone over because of their politics, that would be political. Do we agree on that?
I think I can agree with you on that.
Okay,
yes.
Good. So the premise today.
I don't like her using the word I think there. You either know or you don't know.
Is that particularly today in 2025, by and large, the political violence is coming from the left. It's not proportionate with that on the right. That's the reason.
Yeah, I really wish every city across America would report their crimes and everything in the way it is, properly, every crime reported, every single thing. You don't mess up, the data within it, because being able to go back and look at the data and see where, maybe the country needs more resources to help out, or, this area, they seem to have it under control, yet, they have excess money at the end of the year. Oh, okay. That's fine. We'll let them do that. So we'll let them have their budget and see if they continue to have that money. Maybe in other areas like, oh crap, they really need help. And it's like, yeah, getting proper crime stats reported. is the best way to start cleaning up a city. Because once you can figure out where the crime's coming from, what crimes are going on in every which way, then you can start figuring out how to solve them and figure out the lying problem in the root causes.
For the security that you see today, that's very necessary. And it's a problem that's reaching a boiling point that may not be sustainable. If you disagree with me, you're welcome to change my mind.
I don't know if I can change your mind, because here's the thing. When I see the sign that says the left is violent, and you talked about how it's not proportional, and I would love to see your statistics about that, because we could make the same statement.
I mean, I got a handful of the bigger ones this year alone. The shooting in D.C. that claimed the lives of a couple Israelis, that was political violence. And it was, a pro-Palestine guy, which pro-Palestine is a very left-wing political lining thing right now. So that was political violence on the left. Followed by the attack on the Congresswoman Melissa Hortman and her husband and their murders, because even though she was a Democrat, she was attacked by someone, also Democrat on the left, someone who coincidentally was hired by Tim Walz for his day job, and she was only killed after she voted Republican way on an issue. She chose to not give health care to illegal immigrants, and then she was killed for that. I would say 100% that's left-wing violence against another left-wing person. And then you've got all the way up to Charlie Kirk's death, where, yes, Tyler Robinson comes from a Republican family and his members around them, but I hear thousands of stories of people who are like, oh yeah, my parents were Republican, but I can't support that. I don't join them. I'm very Democrat liberal. I'm the opposite. And so, yeah, it's like very easy to believe that, yeah, this guy went off to college, found a nice roommate that he, someone who he enjoyed spending time with, and then all of a sudden, now he's going out to kill someone because that person said negative things in out of context clues about the person he was with. And it's like, okay, that's another example of left-wing violence. It's like we've got just so many right there.
About the right very easily, right? Like we could say that was it just a month or two ago that the Democratic lawmakers were shot, and that was like, all right. I think our bigger problem is that the
talk about the Hortmans in Minnesota, right?
Right, yeah, because she was a senator and her husband was also killed, and that was done by the right, whatever. But
it wasn't. But continue.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, that wasn't it wasn't a conservative or.
No, that's why I used the example that I did. The person, Vance Bolter, who committed it, specifically said it had nothing to do with politics, and he left a letter reasoning it, saying that Tim Walz had ordered him to carry a hit out on people. So he was very clear that it wasn't in the name of politics. That's someone who happened to be, on some issues, Republican, on some issues, Democrat. And he was appointed by a Tim Walz administration. So that was not done in the name of political violence. He said Tim Walz ordered him to...
I still will... I think it should be classified as political violence, even if the guy is claiming it wasn't. The person who is asking for it definitely is calling the political violence. I mean, how many times has Tim Walz called people on the right Nazis? How many times has he called Trump Hitler, the ICE agents, the Gestapo? Like, they are asking for
Fascinate somebody who's out of his mind. But I'd like you to continue with the example.
Sure. And let's say, okay, so he wasn't right. That's fine.
No, it wasn't political violence.
It wasn't political. Oh, it didn't count as political violence.
Based on the definition you agreed to, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is there's so many things happening. It's actually really hard to get all the facts about everything.
Sure.
And our media is when they make these statements or they start to postulate about an event, and it will become political before we've even fully fleshed everything out, like...
Could you give me an example?
Well, like, the shooting that happened at the church yesterday, I haven't seen...
Yeah, that one, that was... I'm not sure. I believe this is the one from Grand Blanc, Michigan, that she's talking about, that shooting and the church burning. I don't know if that was so much political violence as it was just violence against religious people, or a religious amount of violence. But yeah, that reminds me of the other shooting in Minnesota of that church where that was definitely a leftist person on the left because they're, who they were. They were a trans individual who, obviously, that's not right-wing aligning popular thing there. And yeah, they went up, they killed a bunch of Christians who were Catholic people who were praying at the church there, and that was pretty bad. That 100% falls under left-wing violence as well.
I don't know. Have you seen any media on it yet? I'm curious to know what the media is saying
quite a bit
about it. And I want to know how are they characterizing it?
Yeah, the media isn't characterizing, I will say this, even on the left and the right, they're not really characterizing that as political violence.
Okay.
Because it was a guy who really seemed to harbor ill will toward the Mormon church.
Yeah, that's basically what it seemed. He just wanted to harm the churchgoers of that there, and yeah, because the fact that he completely took out the whole church with his arson attack after shooting a bunch of people, yeah, that really is a proof evidence that that's what he was wanting.
So it's pretty hard to categorize it as political violence when the targets were largely conservative, and the man who carried out the action seems like he might be Republican. But I think we could pick a more clear example, a multitude of them. The reason we're here, and I don't think you would argue that this is unnecessary, the assassination in cold blood is an act of terrorism of Charlie Kirk. Is that political violence?
That attack against Charlie Kirk was 100% politically motivated. The person who did it is, like I said, exactly as I would figure someone on the left who is like, oh yeah, you're gay, you have a trans boyfriend who, you enjoy that with him, and with the other things, other sexual deviances, the furry portion, it's like, that's not traditionally right-wing, so we're going to definitely lean that way. And then he also wrote on his bullets, catch fascist and Bella Ciao, which is, all the quote anti-fascist propaganda. However, most of it is, just the ill will of what the left has categorized the right as. Like I keep saying, if the left wing is just going to start calling everyone they disagree with on the right Nazis, Hitler, the ICE agents, Gestapo, all of a sudden that gives me the ability to turn it back around on them and say everybody I disagree with and that they're on the left, they're all pedophiles. And because they're a pedophile, you should treat them like you would. What would you do to pedophiles? Oh yeah, you would probably lock them up or make sure they can't go anywhere near anyone else again to harm them, because yeah, they're going to take advantage of someone and go harm a kid. It's like, yeah, the false accusations go both ways, and this one I think is a much more fun one to use because it'll make them in a much worse light.
You seem so confident on the Hortmans, but not Charlie Kirk.
I was just thinking about your question.
She's thinking that because, well, with the Hortmans, one of them is a politician, and Charlie wasn't. So, because he's a politician, or she was a politician, political. Because Charlie wasn't, not. And because, this makes my side look bad.
Probably because he was like Turning Point USA is a
she did agree.
Organization, right? That's meant to try and rally young conservatives and be involved. And so, yeah, I would probably agree that his death was his murder, assassination
there you go.
Was politically violent. But I guess I just have a hard time reconciling that with, we can say that the senator and her husband being killed wasn't political, but...
I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why. Because the express motive of the terrorist who assassinated Charlie Kirk was politics. He killed him because he said he's one of those hateful conservative right-wingers. The rhetoric that he espoused, the reason that he killed Charlie Kirk, was to take out someone of his political persuasion and make others of his political persuasion afraid to express their opinions. The man who assassinated, which I roundly condemn, Vance Bolter, the Hortmans, did not do it as a means to a political end. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he is not an elected official, solely because of his political perspective as a method to instill terror in the populace.
Yeah.
How do I know? Because a person said it was political violence.
Okay, what if we just don't even have enough information, though? Like, what if it is politically motivated and we just don't have enough to know about it yet?
In that case, we do.
Not in this particular instance, but I just mean, like, with the Hortmans you mentioned.
Okay, well, let's separate the gray area.
Okay.
right? That's why I kind of start with the example. Just because you, I would assume, let's say, vote Democrat or Republican, just because you commit a crime doesn't make it political violence. I mean, if we did that, we'd have 90% of the crime being committed on behalf of the Democrat Party because most people in inner cities vote Democrat. I don't consider that to be political violence. People have.
Yeah, that would basically make 90% of gang violence political violence from Democrats against other Democrats, probably because of the soft on crime voting that some people in those areas like.
Have political beliefs. When people commit violence, sometimes they rob a store because they want money. People who commit political violence do so specifically to instill fear in political opposition. They specifically commit violence as a means to a political end.
Okay.
And when we categorize it that way, it's overwhelmingly coming from the left. We do have the sources here that we make this available, so you can take the QR code. So what would make you, because you seem very confident that the Hortmans was political violence, and then it's nuanced with Charlie Kirk. Why?
Oh, I didn't say it was nuanced at all with Charlie Kirk. I agreed with you after considering your question that it was a political.
If that doesn't constitute political violence that could be answered in the affirmative immediately, of course, what would? Like, what would be required to say, oh, this is clearly an act of political violence or political terrorism, if not Charlie Kirk?
I agreed that it was political violence, so I'm not sure where this question's coming from.
Well, I'm saying because you came in and pointed to an example that would be in the gray area, the Hortmans, and took a long time to agree with that premise of Charlie Kirk. And so what if we don't know enough information? So Charlie Kirk would be very clear left-wing political violence.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Great.
Yes.
So there are more examples of that coming from the left than the right. That's the premise, yes.
Okay. So you're saying clear examples of political violence. And
Yes.
you're using
100%. The left is far more violent than the right. The right does have a few little outliers here and there. However, the majority of the political violence is the left.
Violence carried out as a means to a political end.
So there's clear information
Hey, how much you want to bet she's going to pull up a January 6th?
and data that shows us that the left is violent or is more violent than the right.
Yes. Not only in crime statistics, but also in the polling after Charlie Kirk's death. Now, I believe that you're discussing this in good faith, and I would assume that you roundly condemn political violence of all stripes.
Of course.
So do I. Just to be clear, I think we both are. That's why we're sitting at a table having a conversation.
Right.
Do you identify as more liberal or conservative?
I like to think I'm moderate because I hold some conservative views and some liberal views.
Okay.
And I wish we could have a little bit more moderation in our country.
Like sitting down and
That would be awesome if we could get, away from the Republican, Democrat, two-party system, and we get to, where at election comes time, it's not just, it's, take South Park's example, where, they're how they put their candidates, one, you got a turd sandwich, and, what they do for the other one. I forget. It's been too long since I've seen that episode. But yeah, I was like, you got a turd sandwich for one candidate and a moron for the other. And it's like, all right, well, what do you pick now? Especially when both parties, just are trying to put the biggest idiot in the office. Like I thought in 16 and 20. I wasn't for Trump in 16 or 20. I wasn't for Hillary. I wasn't for Biden. I was very much in the middle, voting third party, hoping that, we can finally be the generation to break out of the two-party system. And we can have more than just this group or that group. Which one has power for current time? Oh, yay! It's this group. Oh, yay! It's that group now. And then you just keep flip-flopping and nothing ever gets done because, now I gotta undo what the last guy did. Now I gotta redo what my guy did 4 years prior, 8 years prior. And it's like, we really gotta stop doing that. We gotta work with each other. We gotta have more moderation. We gotta have more, different things going on. It can't just be come in, do the opposite of what the last guy did every time.
having discussions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like things like this.
Because we get killed for it anyway.
Right. Yeah.
And only the right. Only the right gets killed for this anyway. You're seeing the one that
100%. You got Steven Crowder out here with a bulletproof vest on, all the security, the bulletproof glass I saw, and everything. He's got the whole team and everything out here, like, SEAL Team 6 versus, leftist streamer Destiny, who's sitting out at a table basically by himself. It's like Destiny and a friend who's there to film, and it's like, yep, just the two of them. And it's like, no, there's no rioting, there's no yelling. They're all echo chambery saying the same thing. But if a right-wing guy in a MAGA hat showed up, I'm sure they would start yelling at him and boo him off campus.
Got through. The reason I stopped doing this for years is because every single time out was a violent attack. Sometimes it was a rock. Sometimes it was a milkshake, could be concrete, acid, chocolate, vanilla, I don't know. Doxing, fire bombings, Molotov cocktails. Maya Angelou spoke at SMU only a few years before my first time here, didn't need this kind of security. And you can see it if you observe your speakers here. And I'll tell you why that is. If you look at the polls post-assassination of Charlie Kirk, and you label yourself as a moderate, those who identify as liberal support political violence at a ratio of 6-1 to conservatives. The YouGov poll said, is political violence acceptable? 77% of conservatives said not at all. Only 38% of those on the left said not at all. 62% of those on the left said somewhat to completely acceptable. We see the same stats after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
And if you take the age range, the age of, like, I believe it was 18 to 24, or 18 to 30, I believe that one was, is that group is like the most violent on the left, and the same group on the right is like 8-1 for its percent of the resort to political violence. The right had like a 3% metric, I believe, and the left had a 24% for that age range.
We see the same stats after the fire bombings of the Tesla dealership. And we see the same stats on the opposite side, those on the right roundly condemning political violence. The lowest you'll find is 72. You usually find it in the high 80s. You will not find a number that breaks half on the left.
Okay, you mentioned Donald Trump. Can we jump to that for just a minute?
Donald Trump, sure. I assumed we would.
Well, because I thought that guy was a registered Republican, and then he donated, the guy who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I'm really terrible at names.
Crooks.
Yeah, that he was a registered Republican. So would you consider him a act of violence on the left or on the right?
I would consider the attempted assassination of a presidential nominee political violence, yes.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, there are a lot of people on the right who don't like Donald Trump.
Yes, I do know a few of them. Yeah.
Political violence isn't just Republican-Democrat. That's why I say left versus right.
Okay.
Those on the right are more routinely targets, and it's very blatant. People can say he was a registered Republican. That doesn't change the fact that it was an act of political violence carried out against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I say if you're going against someone, especially a presidential candidate, and in this case, also former president, who was, trying to take back the White House and get his other 4 years of his term, which he did, thank God. Thank God we don't have Kamala in the White House today. But yeah, we got Trump in there. He's ending wars. He's making peace, potentially in the entire Middle East. I'm excited to see where that goes and the hopefully awesome outcome that comes from Middle East peace for the first time in centuries. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, of course, a attempted political assassination or a successful one of any political candidate, whether or not you're the same registration as that candidate, you're attacking them, which is, discouraging that party or attempting to discourage that party from being out and showing their faces because they'd be afraid they're going to get shot, killed for what they believe, what they are preaching out there. And yeah, I would say that was an act of left-wing violence, even if the shooter was on the right. He was acting in the effect of, this will make the right wing afraid, and maybe we won't have to have this guy in office.
Conservative.
Yes.
Republican, whatever term you want to use.
Well, I guess, but if the argument is the left is violent, and I'm just thinking about this guy's, political background from the person. I hear what you're saying, that the right is targeted more often.
Yeah, we're the victims of political violence.
More often, and
much more.
So, would you classify that specific incident as violence of the right or of the left?
Well, the target is the right. The target was Donald Trump. So the net result is the same. We are often the targets of violence.
Where?
Yeah, but the left,
including someone who may be a
violent.
moderate Republican. Yeah, the left is still overwhelmingly violent. And I point to those polls that you can peruse from YouGov, from Reuters, not bastions of conservatism, along with the rhetoric since then. Here's the one thing that you can't point me to. And we can go through the stats. And I know you've probably heard from those on the left that actually there's more right-wing political violence. They're often circulating that right now. I can disabuse you of that notion relatively.
Yeah, there was another poll that was saying because they ignore the BLM riots of 2020 that 2025 is on track to be the left's most violent year in, I think it was 3 decades. It's been at least 30 years since the last time they were as violent as they are today.
Quickly, I think we'd find common ground there. You still can't point me to an example that is comparable on the right of Charlie Kirk, someone who was not an elected official, a public figure who was really notable for nothing more than expressing his opinion and having conversations, who was assassinated in cold blood and then gleefully celebrated thereafter from the left. And I hope that as someone who's moderate, you understand why that's so concerning to us on the right. When we host vigils and memorials, and the left is so completely fearless of their own consequences that they kill one of ours and show up to the memorials and vigils and desecrate and vandalize. That is the information that creates the powder keg.
Yeah.
The only off-ramp would have been, hey, we kept saying that people like Charlie Kirk, by the way, he was much more moderate than I am. I am Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun compared to Charlie Kirk, but I will have conversations with anyone. I just want to be very clear. So I know that plenty of people would gleefully celebrate my death, my murder, for doing this exact same thing. The only off-ramp would have been the left saying, look, we've called Donald Trump and his voters and Charlie.
Yeah, I'm sure if they killed Steven Crowder like they did Charlie, they would have a picture of him at the table, and on the front it wouldn't say, like, the left is violent. It would say, I'm not dead, change my mind. And then it would be the image of him dead behind the chair. And that would be a horrible thing if it ever comes true and sees. But yeah, I can just predict what they'll do. And it's horrifying to think about sometimes. The left really doesn't know how to make a good joke about, they don't know where to send a joke when it's, a joke about death and, a dark humor. It's like, I love a good dark joke. However, there's dark, and then there's just fucked up. Tell dark jokes. Don't tell fucked up jokes.
Charlie Kirk and Steven Crowder and whoever on the right, Tucker Carlson, take your pick, Sargon of Akkad, everyone. Ben Shapiro, we've called them fascists, we've called them Nazis, we've said that they want to commit a genocide because they don't want to transition children, we've called them racist because they support the police in an era of defund the police, and my God, people out there actually believe it. It's incumbent upon us to tone this down and say, You know what? They're not fascists. We made these people believe that this guy would never relinquish the reins of power. How do you deal with fascists? You can't do it at a ballot box. If I believed that there was an actual government right now that was executing blacks, as the left has said about the police force, if I believed that there was a leftist government that was actually fascist, that would jail any and all political dissidents, if I believed that the left was committing a genocide against white conservative Christian men, and if I believed that that administration would never host a democratic election again, I'd be out in the streets with a gun. You have a huge portion of Democrats who believe that about Donald Trump and his voters.
Yeah, I believe you saying that people believe that. Absolutely.
Does she really? Does she really believe that? Like, it is one of those things where it's like, you see the violence out there, you hear all about it, and you're like, oh, people can't actually be like this. And then you meet some of them, and you just wonder, how did they become this way? Who said things to you? Where did you learn? And when I think, if everybody sat back, they hear something on the news, someone said something in a YouTube video, someone said something in a news article, go ahead, Google, search it up, ask the AI to help you find things, and have them help you get the correct information or verify that what you just read is correct. Because I bet you 90% of the time, no matter where the information's coming from, 90% of it could probably be misconstrued or proven to be false.
That's very different between the right and the left, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know, Stephen. It feels like it's so polarized right now. It's even hard to find common ground on anything. You know, like, I was just thinking about the sign, and it's that the left is violent.
Yes.
Then when I sit down, it's actually the left is politically violent. And so it's kind of it's a modifier, right?
No, it's the same thing.
We're modifying our conversation a little bit. And so...
if they're politically violent, that's still being violent.
No, what I'm doing is matching the intensity and the rhetoric of the left. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have said the right is violent. The political right is violent. And I'm doing what they are unwilling to do, which is sit down and have a conversation. I don't believe it's nuanced. I believe there's black and white, pretty clear-cut good and evil in this.
And I also take the belief that if some of them sat down, some of the people on the left, if they sat down to actually give good faith and have a good conversation, there would still 100% be a few people willing to attack them and, you know, try to silence them for their vote. But I guarantee you, they wouldn't have to have nearly as much security, nearly as much, you know, bulletproof vests and glass to protect them. It's like, no, they definitely would be a little bit on the safer end.
I believe there's pretty black and white, clear-cut who's responsible for the political violence, but I will discuss it with anybody. So did Charlie Kirk, and they kill us anyway. So I'm matching their rhetoric that I can fit on a sign, but I'm doing the work that the left is not willing to do, and having a conversation. But I don't know where we go from if we have these conversations, and short of a brigade coming in, we get assassinated. The left doesn't fear that.
I would disagree, though. I think the left does have their own fears about it. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but I think there's a lot of fear out there. It's just not. It's just different.
The leftist speakers on this campus don't need the same kind of security. They don't.
I'll take note of that. I mean, I've been a student here for 2 years, and I hadn't even paid that much attention. I don't go to a whole lot of events, but I'll take note of that and see what I notice. So.
Well, let me ask you this. Assuming that I'm not lying to you, right, about these polls, and this is one thing, every show that I do, I'm largely a comedian, by the way. I'm an unwilling participant in this. I want to be telling dick jokes in a comedy club.
Comedy too, actually.
Oh,
that's great.
Good, okay. Do you do some around here?
I do.
You might know my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. He does a lot of stand-up in Dallas right now. He has a show coming up.
Cool.
Well, let me know. Maybe I'll be able to look it up, and I can't come out and see a show unless I come out with security, but I'd like to see your material. That's actually even another example. A man who works on my show, a man named Josh Firestein, he was a booker for a comedy, a franchise of comedy clubs. When I performed at the Spokane Comedy Club, it was the first time they ever needed metal detectors and security. He'd been a booker there for many, many years. You had actual registered communists do comedy there. He was shocked and he was ready to hate me. He works for me now because he saw why it was necessary. When you perform on stage, do you need metal detectors? Do you need armed security? I have since I was 19 years old doing comedy in clubs. And I don't think I've said anything that necessitates that.
Now that's a crazy fact that I just learned about Steven Crowder there. Is that, you know, him since 19, he's had to have this level of security just because of his beliefs and the fact that he stands up and speaks and it tells you what it is, the facts, the truth. Gives you the ability to attempt to change his mind like he gave her here. And, well, still the same. I'm still the same on him. I agree. The left is violent. Being politically violent and violent, that's the same thing. There's no discernible difference. If you're politically violent, you're still violent. The word violent is still in it. Wonder how many times I've said that word this episode.
Oh, George was letting me know. I have class at 2.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this then?
Oh, I mean, I think we need to have more civil discourse. I think.
Can't do that. We get shot.
Well, we can. We're doing it right now. Let's
with
not
a brigade.
Be so pessimistic. But Stephen, come on, we have to change our attitudes about it. We can't constantly fixate on the negative stuff. I know it's important and it matters, but we can do it. And just as
I can do it with $250,000 of security. Most people don't have that.
Most people don't have that. And you talk about like fearing for your life.
Yeah.
I am a female pastor in Deep East Texas. So on Sunday morning, I wait for that time when someone doesn't like what I said from the pulpit and comes up to me. So I too live with a fear, but it's different for me. And
it's a much different level. That's, a pastor in a church and, a female one. That's not the most common, but it's a thing that's been becoming more and more common. We had several pastors in my church growing up. My youth pastor was a female, was a woman. We had our children's minister, the leader of that, our children's pastor, as she was called. She was she was a woman. It's like most of the people who are leading the younger groups and everything, and the youth up to adulthood, most of them are female. And we even had, and they even sometimes go and guest lead the main service a lot. It's quite nice sometimes to have a little bit of just a change of voice up there. Not hearing from the same individual every single Sunday.
Metal detectors and armed security?
We can't afford that at my church. We have an old person that sits at the front and says hi and tries to intervene in a way that would be appropriate of a Christian. We've thought about bringing security to the church. We talked about it.
We literally can't have these discussions on our side unless we have it.
We have security.
It's a necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big thing is like, can the person on the right just go have a conversation? Not unless they have someone to protect them, some security, some level of anything. And it's the people on the left don't need any security. They can get away with just going out and setting up a table and saying, "Come talk to me."
And I think that's really unfortunate that it's gotten so bad. The state of our country is so bad that we can't even talk to each other without one side or the other having to provide ridiculous amounts of safety and security that maybe aren't even guaranteed.
It's only one side that needs to provide security, for the record.
No, it's true.
Right?
And I agree with you. It is terrible that we've gotten to this point.
Yeah.
It is terrible that it's exclusively incumbent upon one side to have these types of measures in place. Let me ask you this. Because again, I think that we both abhor political violence. Do you think that maybe when one side is being hunted, let's make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was hunted. When people showed up to my house to try and kill me, I was being hunted. Right? Any conservative here is one viral tweet, one effective video away from being hunted.
Yeah.
Do we think that when that happens, and we peacefully mourn the loss of one of our peaceful leaders, and we are still approached with violence at memorials and at vigils with desecration, do you think that maybe the both sidesing it, saying it comes from both sides, is actually more harmful than productive?
It is very much more harmful than productive, especially in these moments, in these times when it's like, we're in mourning of an act of political violence from the left. I'm being Charlie Kirk's memorial, for example. Or mourning or at Charlie Kirk's memorial, we're all in mourning, and then people show up outside to protest it, to, destroy the vigils or attack the different created memorials and whatnot for them. It's awesome to see them created, but it's awful when you see people just destroying it, taking things apart. The paint that was dumped all over the rock that was painted beautifully, that it was only lasted like a day, if that. It's like, we shouldn't have to put up a memorial for someone of a whole bunch of stuff, photos, flowers, and then have someone standing guard. That should just be respected. If you're on the left and it compels you to get up and go attack one of these things, you need mental help. You need to get up, look inside yourself, and figure out, where did all this anger come from? Because there is something wrong there.
Because it lets the side that's responsible for it off the hook, the clear aggressor.
Do I think it's more harmful to say that it's both sides?
Do you think it would be more helpful to call the left out and say, hey, you guys have been saying fascist, you guys have been saying Nazi, you guys have been saying genocide, sexist, and people believe it, and we're seeing political violence now that we both hate. Do you think that calling them out aggressively, rhetorically, might be more productive than saying, well, I guess it happens on both sides, right now?
No, I don't, because it kind of reminds me of therapy, where...
Where's she going with this? A lot of the therapists that are lefties are also not too great at actually giving good advice in my experience. I've seen a lot of people who get really terrible therapy advice from their quote-unquote mental health experts and whatnot. It's kind of crazy hearing some stories, and I'll go into more later, but this isn't the place for them, especially with how long this video is going to be.
It's not necessarily helpful to point the finger in ways that are counterproductive. Not that I'm not opposed to holding people accountable, because that's a different thing.
No, I understand.
So,
Maybe let me ask you then this way, where you say pointing fingers. What is the reason that we record crime statistics?
I don't know.
Would you agree with the fundamental premise that its primary purpose is risk assessment in determining who's most likely to be victimized? For example, and I hear this from the left, transgender or gay sex workers are more likely to be targets of violence than heterosexual sex workers, right? Those studies have come out, and by the way, those seem to be true. So we go, okay, these people are more at risk. The reason for crime statistics is to assess where the risk exists. Otherwise, it serves no purpose.
Okay.
Will we agree with that?
Fair.
Okay.
Sure, I'll trust your information on this.
Well, it's not information. It's just the reason. This is the why. Why else would we have crime statistics? Why would we record them? There's no reason. Just, okay, crime was committed. There's nothing we can do about it now.
I'll just have a history. I mean, is another potential reason, but sure.
What's the value in a history?
But history's so important, Stephen. Come on.
In what?
History matters. Oh my gosh.
But history is important in what?
In everything, right? History repeats itself, but I think it holds to your point that
Yes.
history matters because you're saying we've seen these
You don't want to repeat
violence events.
Yeah.
And we don't.
History is repeating itself. We had, the North versus South in the Civil War. The North wanted the slaves freed, and the South wanted free slaves. And now we live in a time where the conservatives want to remove the illegal immigrants from the country, the ones who came in here illegally and aren't trying to immigrate and join the United States, join and be Americans. So we want to get rid of them, versus the left, who majorly wants to keep them. And it's like, no, we can't exist without them. What's going to happen to the agriculture market and all the crop picking? None of us are wanting to go out and pick crops no more. And it's like, so you're saying you need an underpaid laborer to go out and pick the crops just because you don't want to? Well, that's kind of racist in a way, because, most of the people coming into the country or at least the ones who are doing that job, are of a certain race.
You don't want to repeat negative history.
Right,
So we agree.
right,
That's the reason for crime statistics. So if we look at those statistics and we look at the polls and we see an overwhelming number of those on the left at a ratio of 6-to-1 support violence compared to those on the right, and we see people being murdered in cold blood, if you are conservative, right-leaning in this country, and a public speaker, you are more at risk. How is that pointing the finger? It's identifying the problem and not repeating history, no?
Yes. Well, with data, sure. And data speaks differently than I think sometimes people do.
Sure.
And so I think how data is presented matters a lot.
I agree.
How data is collected matters too. If data is collected in an improper way to where the data is falsified or the data is incomplete, then it messes up with, the results of it all.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I really have on that particular thought. Were you wanting?
Well, I think actually, going to that point, the data that's presented, for example, right now in the wake of the assassination, and by the way, not just that, we haven't gone more than 3 days with a serious liberal attack, but a serious leftist attack, meaning in the ideology of the left. You have it right here, ICE, that happened. ICE facility.
Yeah, technically, with the Portland ICE facility being under siege by leftist protesters outside of it, attacking the agents and, causing a scene every single day for over 100 days. Yeah, we've had literal 3 straight months, more than 3 months, probably headed towards 4 months of straight political violence, or some level of political violence from the left against the right. We are still all targets, and things need to be remedied before the hammer slaps back too hard that the left gets eliminated in the slapback.
Yet another one in.
We don't need to just have a one-party system. We need multiple parties. We need to have a Democrat Party. We need a Republican Party. We need a Libertarian Party. We need a moderate party. We could have an independent party. We could have the Green Party. It's like we should have all these other parties that are taking more percentage. People should really take more time and look at where they are, at what they are doing with certain levels of their political views. Because some people, I definitely think they could go and readjust and be completely in a different party, maybe.
I believe is it Alvarado or Alvarado? I don't know the right way to pronounce it. People were shot there. There's a bomb threat. The ABC affiliate. Okay, all right. It's like Houston, and then in New York they go Houston. I'm like, I don't know the rules, so forgive me. And then I have French Canadian mom, so I mispronounce things because she taught me English.
Nice.
And then we look at the ABC affiliate, Jimmy Kimmel. We haven't gone more than 3 days. That's an acceleration right now. And the problem is, amidst that, the left is saying, actually, there's more political violence coming from the right. And that's the rhetoric we've been hearing, and it's dishonest. In other words, data is being...
Yeah, for decades I've heard that, the right is the violent side, the right is wrong. And for a while I actually believed it. Hilariously. I fell into the bullcrap, media that lied to us, created false narratives, and pushed racist rhetorics by not saying certain races of different crimes that happened, or only saying one kind of it. Oh, white guy killed black guy. Ooh, what, a certain individual got murdered by a black guy. Like, okay, who was the individual? Was it another black guy? Because that could be gang violence. And, that's one of those where it's like, what level of gang violence matters in the crime statistics? Where exactly would you label it? I would say label it in gang violence and then specify which portion of the crime, whether it be gang violence and sex crime, gang violence and guns, etc. It should be pretty simple to start listing everything and getting it accurate.
Presented to the public deliberately, dishonestly, to victim blame. And that's something that we face too, where if you back people into a corner who are avoiding conflict, who are not violent, there could end up being right-wing violence. And when that happens, it's very ugly, it's very effective, it's very swift. And the only way we avoid that is for the left to take accountability of it and for them to tone down the temperature. And by that I mean, right now, and this is where I show you, I think we both agree on this. So the two sources in the data, I don't care if you see my password, are the Prosecution Project, that's what's cited in The Economist and NPR, and Cato. These are the ones where they say, hey, right-wing violence is more prevalent. I'm sure you've heard that. Let me show you what they don't include in the data, because like you said, people speak differently than data. Remember this in Portland?
When was this?
Summer of Love, George Floyd riots. Aaron Danielson, shot point blank dead because he was a Trump voter. And the man Reinhold, it was Michael Reinhold who shot him.
Yeah, all the BLM riots, it's like 95% of the cities didn't include those as political violence from the left. Most statistics don't include anything from BLM, and it's just kind of crazy that BLM was a full-blown scam. People aren't accepting that fact, and then they're turning around and trying to use it as, oh, but there's violence on both sides. Look at all the right-wing violence versus no left-wing violence. And it's like, what are you talking about? You guys went and burned down cities because a guy overdosed on fentanyl. And then his autopsy was held off on purpose from being released for a really long time. It's like, come on, things were intentionally withheld. Things were avoided so a situation could escalate.
Told the cops, I got the Trump supporter dead. We agree that's political violence?
Yes, of course.
Not a single one of these places cites it. It doesn't exist in their database.
The ones here in your black folder, but not here in this.
No, in there. You have all the sources.
Oh, these ones doesn't.
It's the same thing. The black folder is just those.
Okay.
Yeah. The point is they come from two places. TPP, the Prosecution Project, or a Cato study, which is reflected by the CSIS as well, where Cato tried to say there's 6 times the amount of domestic terrorism deaths. TPP said right-wing general violence. By the way, all of them agree that in the last year, since Donald Trump has been elected, even now they agree 2 to 3 times more leftist violence than right-wing violence.
I believe
that was
it.
never included. In other words, when they say there's more right-wing political violence, that's not included as left-wing political violence.
Yeah, and if that's not included, you wonder what else they don't include in their statistics. And then just their regular crime statistics, you wonder what they're reporting in those. And it's like, how much of those can you trust? Which do we need, like a whole legislative area to overlook the police departments and making sure, now we have to have some kind of guy going around with the police who making sure that each officer is getting and writing down the correct information and leaving everything correct, having photos and evidence and all that of the individuals and proving who's doing what crimes against who as well. It's like, I think there should be a lot more overlook of law enforcement. Law enforcement has a decent hand that's outstretched to do things, but I think they need a little more oversight to curb the misinformation that they can spew.
You know what else isn't? All the riots, the billions in damages, the 37 dead during the George Floyd riots, the thousands of officers assaulted, the thousands of casualties, that's not included.
Yeah, the thousands of assaults on officers, all the deaths, the 37 there that he mentioned. It's like all of those, should each of them be counted as an incitement or an act of political violence on the left? Maybe each one of them is a little overkill, and it could be, the groups that were arrested at times, or there could be ways to count it and make it not seem so heavily skewed, even though, yeah, it 100% is skewed way to the left, being far more violent even in recent years.
You know what else is included? Darrell Brooks in Waukesha, Wisconsin, who ran people over in the parade out of an exclusive defund the police, Black Lives Matter, anti-white, black supremacist ideology. That's why he killed them. That's not included. I could go through example after example where you would just as clearly agree that is political violence. I'm not trying to pick a gray one. It exists nowhere. So why do you think that wouldn't be included in the data as left-wing political violence? Because that's the number cited by the left right now to justify it.
I think we have so much data that it's hard to even, especially in today's, well, I don't know, that's weird because you're saying in the police recorded call, they said
he spoke to the police before they shot him.
So it's on a 911 call that
so this is on
the Trumper.
Yeah, he was talking to the police. So there's
police cam video.
This is security camera video, and then I believe there's also police camera video and sworn testimony from the police. But he identified as 100% Antifa.
Yeah.
You can look at his social media. He went out there. There are even, I believe, interviews with this man before this was committed where he was talking about enacting political violence.
Yeah.
Did it, clear as day. Are you a Trump supporter? Yes, we've got a Trump supporter. Bang, bang, dead. All the studies from left-wing sources don't include that. Is that bothersome?
Yeah, I do think it is bothersome because we need to have the facts of the situations, any situation, regardless of where it comes from. And, you talked about
I agree with her on that one. We do need to have the stats of every area of crime, regardless of which side, which area it was committed to, who it was committed against. And yeah, I think it would make a real interesting ability if every department had to report everything exactly as it happened, get motivations, and be figuring out why people committed said crimes.
something you said earlier just reminded me of the media is not portraying things accurately, and
right.
That's adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah,
it's adding so much fuel to the fire.
Yeah, the media and falsely portraying things, the propaganda is insane. When people talk about the left-wing propaganda machine, that's what they mean. They mean that they're falsifying facts and not giving accurate data. They're, intentionally not including things from their data, and it makes it look worse for one side or the other.
On that, we agree. And can I ask you, and this is, by the way, there's no wrong answer. This is just an opinion. Why do you think that wasn't included? Why do you think the examples that I gave you, none of them were included? But any example of white on black violence, even if it was a Democrat voter, was listed as right-wing. Any attack on a government building, even if it was Antifa, was listed as right-wing. Why do you think something that clear
Was not included.
Would it surprise you if the authoritative source that's being cited, the Prosecution Project,
Happy longest video I got so far now. Yay. 1 hour in.
the author of it, was actually arrested himself on January 20th protesting Donald Trump, committing crimes, and that entire day was also omitted?
Probably not.
A member of Antifa who said we are an organized group and we confront fascists. That's the source that gets disseminated across. It seems that there might be a bias there. And these sources are being used to victim blame those on the right now. Where do you think those on the right go? Where we go, hold on a second, we're actually sitting down and having conversations, and we've been attacked and in some cases killed.
Right.
And then you came to the memorials and the vigils, and you celebrated it. A majority of people on the left, not all, not yourself, but too many celebrated it.
I don't celebrate death
No,
in that way.
but many.
Yeah, far too many people on the left celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk, and it caused a massive rift from the people who celebrate it to the people who are like looking over going, why are you so happy about this? A man died. Kids are without a father now. A wife is without her husband. Regardless if you agreed or not with what he said, he shouldn't have been murdered. And it's like, well, yeah, he shouldn't have been murdered, but your side kept calling him a Nazi, kept calling him a fascist, kept calling everyone he associated with Nazis, fascists, the Gestapo. And it's like when you use terms like that, you really create and instill fear in the people who could potentially be radicalized to attack them.
Did, and we both know that we saw it.
I know you're right,
And then you came and blamed us and said we need to tone it down, and told us that we're more violent with clearly dishonest stats.
Yeah.
That's why I say that both sidesing it doesn't help, because you're backing people into a corner, not you, the left, with lies. At a certain point, they're going to push back, and I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah, so what do you think the answer is then?
I'll tell you what I think the answer is, twofold. One, the leadership of the left and the majority of the left. I think that the majority of people who identify as liberal, the reason you get those numbers 62 to 65, depending on the day, whether it's Rutgers or whether it's YouGov, I think they support political violence to varying degrees because they actually believe that those on the right are fascist, are Nazis, are genocidists, are racist, are homophobic, are sexist, because every single member of the Democratic leadership has said so. Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Walz, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren,
I mean, right before the election, you had Biden calling all Trump supporters garbage. And then, it caused Trump to go take one of the greatest, political moves that he could, which was to have a freaking garbage truck with him and Vivek for a photo op, and then have Vivek Ramaswamy actually go and have a video of him working a full day as a garbage man. Like, it was pretty awesome. The photo op of Trump's 2024 on the garbage truck was an awesome thing to see, especially with how quickly they got it put together. It just shows you the power this new administration we have has. I'm so proud that we have the administration we have today.
every single one has made that comparison. I think it's incumbent upon the left to take accountability, say, look, we have gone too far here. This needs to be toned down. Of course, Donald Trump and his voters are not fascists who won't relinquish power, because he can't deal with fascists at a ballot box. And then I think we also states need to take this upon them, need to change their soft on crime policy. The no cash bail.
Soft on crime policies hurt the victims of crimes.
The IOU policy, where you can simply say, I'll be back in court before Charlie.
Yeah, that IOU policy is why Irina Zarutska is dead today. She should be an alive, legal immigrant from Ukraine, a refugee from war in the United States, thriving because she had to flee her war-torn country of Ukraine and come to the best country on the planet, but yet some woke judge, some radical leftist judge let a criminal out and said, oh, just come back to court on this date. And then due to just being a white person, he and the guy, or being a black person, he wound up just killing the white girl because, well, she was white. Like, that should terrify any white person from voting for anyone who would go towards a soft on crime leftist policy ever again. It should encourage you to do the exact opposite of adding more diversity into things and putting less so that you can take back the control and have safe communities. Because if all of a sudden these leftist radicals are joining positions of power and they're just against the right, we got to be soft on crime, we got to be anti-Trump just because Trump bad, it's ruining everything around you.
Kirk, right? The story in the news was Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed on that subway in North Carolina by a black man, to Carlos Brown Jr.
Is he going to say what I basically just said?
He was let out 14 times. And the last time he was let out by a left judge in the name of social justice, he was deemed unfit to stand trial.
If you are deemed unfit to stand trial, you should never leave until you are deemed fit to stand that trial. And then after the results of the trial, if they say, hey, you're innocent, go by, then you can leave. If you are unfit to stand trial, you get to go sit in a mental health facility where you'll have professionals around you, and you'll have an area where you'll have to stay because you're still detained there by the state. They'll feed you. They'll have mental health professionals to help you get to the point where you are competent to stand your trial, which I think that was full lying, and that guy was 100% able to stand trial because he got up from his seat, he reached in and just jab, 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 right into her. Horrifying video. Her face being absolutely terrified when she realized I'm about to die, looked up at him, and he's, walking away, knife dripping her blood all over the train. And he's like, I got the white girl. Like, that's a hate crime. That's a race-related crime. It is a crime, he should not have been out to be able to do that.
But they let him go back out into society because he said he'd be back. Said he killed an innocent woman. You know why? Because, hey, justice is racist. I don't know when it becomes racist, if it's at arrest number 11 or 14 or 6. But that needs to change. Those two things, accountability, change in rhetoric, ownership from the left, which will change the makeup of today's left, make us safer, and needs to change soft on crime policy. And I also advocate that conservatives take an approach of ruthless, lawful self-defense, because we've afforded grace where it is not warranted.
I think in today's political landscape, every single person on the right should go out, get a gun license, or whatever the equivalence is in their state, and get some level of firearm and learn training with it. A defensive weapon at this point, is a necessity in society, and without it, I really think that a lot of us could wind up dead.
What I mean by that is people who attack me and my family, and many of my production members who've been attacked, violently assaulted, have taken the high road for a very long time, and that's why these people feel so bold to come to our memorials and still commit attacks. They need to know they can't do that. I want the left to be able to get up and have these conversations with no security, as they often do, and I don't want anyone on the right to go and violently disrupt it. The left needs to be afraid to come into our groups and commit acts of violence, because we watched entire cities burn down. We watched our own die, and then we watched it celebrated. And unless the left does this and takes this approach.
Yeah, when I saw people celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, it awakened something within me that just made me realize there is no hope for the modern Democrat Party unless they have a radical amount of change within. They are a group that is inherently violent, and they victimize themselves in every single way, shape, form. It's almost like they want to be victims. And it's like, why do you want this?
It's going to get worse. There's no off-ramp. That's a genuine concern of mine. People are concerned about radicalizing, right? They talk about radicalization with echo chambers online. And there's nothing more radicalizing than an assassination and a party afterwards.
Yes, no, I agree with you.
Yeah, if I were a member of the Democrat Party, I would be mad at someone for killing someone on the right, inciting that violence of the other members of my party who are all, they're Nazis, they're fascists, ICE is the modern day Gestapo. And when you're doing that, it's like you're turning the other party into this enemy that was feared, that, you know, the group that the Nazi Germany that took over Europe once and almost conquered the entire continent of it. It's like only stopped via a collection of allied parties. The Soviet Union, who was more of a, you know, we don't like them either, but we need to be, you know, allies until they're gone at least, kind of deal. And it's like when you demonize one side to make them look like they're all going to take over, never leave, be absolutely ruthless in power, which I think we should be absolutely ruthless in our crime policies and change from a soft on crime approach to a tough on crime, make people afraid to commit any level of crime against anyone. Make them afraid to steal a fucking candy bar.
That's why I'm sitting down doing this. And to let people know that we're not afraid to have these conversations. Now, of course, you know, we have bulletproof glass and a flak jacket, and it's sad that it's here.
Right.
But it's necessary. That's what I think.
Okay.
Would you disagree with any of those approaches? Changing the rhetoric, taking accountability, and stopping the soft on crime revolving door criminality policy?
This is hard, Stephen, because I just feel like we don't have enough time to even really dive deep into each one.
Well, those
of
are two proposals.
Issues. I know. But I just need more time to process and really consider and to understand what you mean exactly with each thing, because I don't want to.
No cashless bail.
No cashless bail.
Yeah, so you have to post bail.
Let's start with that.
Okay, you have to post bail.
You have to post bail.
You commit a violent crime, you have to post bail. You're in jail. You're not allowed out.
Okay, so no cashless bail, meaning you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to get out without paying any bail.
Without paying any bail, and like
three-strike policy as well.
Three-strike policy.
3 serious felonies, violent crimes.
Wait, hold on, bail though. Bail.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you can't make bail, you can't get out.
Yep. You have to wait for your trial.
No matter what the level of the crime is.
No, if it's a serious felony.
Only.
And with that bail as well, it should be, you know, based appropriate to your income. Literally, you shouldn't be making, you know, $200,000 a year, commit a crime, and then your bail is like 10 grand, because that's like, you know, half a month of your salary. It's like, okay, I'll get out in a few days. Go drain part of my savings, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, etc. Like, go drain the little bit, bring it here, bail me out. Versus, you know, someone making $30,000, if all of a sudden they got a $20,000 bail, it's like, oh shit, that's 2/3 of my yearly income. Rather, for them, it should be proportional, you know. Give the example of, let's just say your bail should automatically be at minimum 5% of your annual income. So if you're making 200 grand, it'll be 10,000. If you're making 20 grand, it'll be 1,000. Like, seems pretty simple.
If it's a serious felony.
Let's even start with violent crimes.
Like
felonies, violent crimes?
Rape, something like that.
Assault, armed robbery.
Okay.
Burglary. Battery.
I think I could probably get behind that.
Okay.
I could probably get behind that.
Not a single leader in the Democratic Party is. Why?
Yeah.
So we could get behind that. No IOU policy for these criminals. You're deemed let's use DeCarlos Brown Jr. as a very clear example. We could use George Floyd as an example, too. He was arrested 6 or 9 times.
Actually, I'm so
Okay, that's fine.
I have to go to class.
Okay, well, please peruse those sources.
Yeah.
Your name is Christina. Let me get your last name so if I want to go see your material.
Yeah, well, I perform.
Oh, she's running away because she doesn't want to have to argue against George Floyd. Oh, great.
Under a stage name, and I wouldn't say it anyways.
Could you write it down for me if I don't show it to anybody?
I will write it down for you, but you won't be able to find me. I'm not like a big, like,
Okay.
I just started a year or so ago.
Well, I was going to follow up. Maybe if I see it, send you some notes of encouragement because I could have used that when I was starting.
Okay.
If you write it down, I promise you no one will see it.
Okay. But I don't know how you're going to send me anything.
Well, just no vibes, I think is the term that's used now.
No
I'll be watching.
vibes.
Know that I'll be out.
He's pulling the leftist words out there with it's just the vibes.
They're going like, hey, go get him.
Well,
But
this is my stage name.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Thank you, Christina.
yes. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Good luck with this.
You too. God bless.
And I am, I just want to say, if it's really inappropriate, if anyone from the left or the moderate is right, we shouldn't be celebrating death. We need to be working together and being united in these things. Together we stand, divided we fall.
I agree with most of
Pink
that.
Floyd. Okay.
Thank
cool.
you very much, Christina.
Yeah,
Be
thank
well.
you.
God bless.
All right, gonna have me a little pause here real quick. All right, I'm back after a short little stretch break.
Well, that was surprisingly productive. And I say surprisingly, not in the context of change my mind, but in the context of what we see in today's social media highlight reels. I hope that we can keep this up. Let's move on to our next.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the conversation he had with her for the most part. She actually sat there. She took time to think over with the things he was saying and, the facts he was giving and the reasoning about them. That was a productive conversation, and, we may have gotten one.
Conversation with Madison, like the town.
Allow me to assert.
I have seen a few little clips here and there from this one, but I tried to avoid as much as I could from this specific debate, or this specific debate, so that everything is. And to those who are like, I didn't come up to this booth to debate, it's a debate. You're coming up to the booth to debate. That's why Steven Crowder sits at the things. He's wanting you to debate him and prove him wrong. He wants to be proven wrong. He wants you to give him something that makes him change his mind. But let's get into her. I want to see what she's all about
today, which is that today, especially in 2025, I am presupposing that predominantly the political violence right now is coming from the left, setting a tenor and tone where everything you see here today is necessary. And if you disagree with that, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
Yeah.
All right. So, which part of that, the left is predominantly responsible for the tone of political violence today, do you disagree with?
Well, I have to think that we first have to consider how many people are on the left and what is the true ideology and mythos behind.
The amount of people on either side doesn't matter when you're dealing with the percent of violence coming from either side, because then it doesn't matter. In fact, having more people on your side would actually make it better, because then the percent of people on your side that are for violence would be a lower amount, hopefully. Because if you have more, hopefully it's a lower amount that's like, I'm going to resort to violence and go murder somebody, act like a fascist. Because that's really what fascism is. It's silencing those who you have a disagreement with, eliminating them from being able to gather more support for them.
This new occurrence of violence that we see with the left.
Okay.
Of course, there's potential skews of media. I don't doubt that crime is not happening, but how many people are truly committing crime out of the sake of leftism or out of the sake of radicalism, or could it be plastered on there just to get this ball rolling about narrative? The only other question that I had, a personal question about you, is, and it's a tough one.
Well, is it related to the topic?
It is.
Okay.
Would Jesus be on the left or the right?
Well, that's a conversation for another day. We talk about that in church quite a bit. I don't necessarily know that he would fit within the current American left-right paradigm. But I will tell you one thing. Jesus would certainly be against political violence as a form of intimidation or coercion. It seems to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not disagreeing with the idea, the uptick that there is an increase in political violence from the quote-unquote left. You're just not sure if you define them as left?
Partially, yeah. I just don't necessarily want to just assign political violence or terrorism directly to the left, because we see political violence across the world in forms of autocratic or conservative ideologies. So maybe China is a really good example. Arguably, Russia.
China's arguably both sides of the thing. They, may have at one point been very communistic, but as of what they are now, they are a capitalist society to the extent of they are all there to make money. They're there to do things, provide products, goods, services to each other. And, and that create their functioning society, sell goods to other nations, etc. Especially that last one, they're selling goods to other nations. And along with that, unlike us, where we have a democratically elected leader, they quote-unquote have a democratically elected leader, but we all know that that's a load of baloney, and that their leader was basically just popped up there. This is the one we picked. He'll be the next one. Because, you get other countries like North Korea, which, if you ask me, North Korea has the highest percent of people in their country in prison, because in my eyes, their whole country is a prison. So 100% of their population is in jail.
Violence?
Of leftist violence, especially. Or, well, no, autocratic and conservative violence.
China would be conservative?
I would believe so, because there are...
Not at all. China, with how their government is, would be very socialism, far left in every which way.
Autocracy. So they have to practice conservative ideologies to obtain... They can't liberate their people. That's what the left is. That's what liberation is.
Well, I don't know how familiar you are with the CCP, but they're communist. And they did so under the guise of liberating people. And then, of course, you don't actually have any democratically held elections again. So they are communist. They've done so to liberate people, namely from the decadence, the quote-unquote shackles of the Western world. I'm just a little bit, I guess, flummoxed as to how you would define communist China, the Communist Chinese Party, as right-wing.
Yeah, there is a 0% that there are right-wing in the Chinese Communist Party. That is one of the farthest, or the biggest examples of left-wing in the world.
Because when Marx wrote his communist ideologies, it was conservative-based. He didn't enjoy other people, races. He wanted to eliminate races.
What does it have to do with conservatism?
It has to do with human rights, because conservatism isn't looking to liberate people from or define human rights. It's looking to remove human rights. Conserving the beliefs of the state and conserving the beliefs of elitism.
Okay, so what if your premise is flawed? So what if conservatism, and I understand, by the way, I agree with you, it means different things across. For example, conservative in the UK. In Canada, you're basically a liberal or a liberal separatist. There's no real conservative party.
Yep.
But in the United States, it's not about conserving the state. As a matter of fact, our Constitution is very unique in that it said the state doesn't grant any rights. So it's preserving the Constitution where you are granted unalienable rights, meaning birthrights, by God. And the state only serves to recognize those rights and protect them. And so if the state ever infringes upon the rights that are naturally yours by birthright...
But who assigned natural rights?
Well, that's the founding fathers who would be conservative. But natural rights being...
Republican?
Well, this was before the Republican Party.
Am I correct?
This is the Republican Party.
Yeah.
But I'm just confused. So you would say that communist China, conservative...
I would say it's autocracy that uses conservative.
She thinks just because it's an autocracy or authoritarianism that it's right-wing. That's what she's been convinced to believe, I think.
Okay.
Let's continue.
But how is that conservative? For example, you say doing away with races. How is that conservative?
It conserves their power over the state or over the nation.
So you believe that conservatives want the state to have more power?
I think that we define conservative beliefs by our Republican values. But conservatism across the globe looks very different.
Okay. Well, I agree that different parties, because there's also the Conservative Party, for example, whereas here it's the Republican Party. We're talking about conservatism in the United States. It seems to me that your presupposition is that conservatives, Republicans want more state control, want more government power, as opposed to the Democrat Party, liberals. Okay. That would apply over health care, what you can eat, what you can drive, taxes. They're more left, they're more liberal, more open-minded on the left with those policies. Okay, I would just disagree with that, considering if you just look at marginal tax rates and you look at gun policy, you look at speech policy, you look at energy policy, what you can drive. But going back to political violence, you said you wouldn't want to ascribe the uptick that we both recognize, political violence to the left. What would be required for it to be ascribed to the left? What if they said it was? Like, what if someone's...
I would say, like, I'm looking at this globally.
Well, let's talk about here in the United States, because that's what we're discussing. Yeah. Like, what I'm asking you is, what would be required if someone were to commit an act of political violence and you consider it on the left? What if they said it's because they're on the left?
To her, I think they'd literally have to be, I'm on the left and I'm committing an act of political violence. Da, 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 da. And then they just shoot up a bunch of people or something after they 100% claimed exactly what they were doing. And unless they do that, it's a right-wing political violence act.
Would that count?
I would say so, no.
No.
I think if somebody's doing an act in towards the left, what side of the left and why? Because what we refer to as the left is now a religion and ideology.
I would agree with that.
This is a secular movement.
Secular humanism,
and,
yeah.
Well, you can really say you wanted to, because like a lot of those people are nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, pro-choice movement is just a demonic movement of baby killers. Like, there's over 1 million abortions a year in the United States that are unnecessary and not medically necessary to do. They're just, to the people doing them, it's an inconvenience that I need to get rid of. And that is just a sad, sad fact that how many people could have been born. It was like, what if the person who cures cancer was aborted before they were born, and now due to some liberal woman aborting their child will never get the cure for cancer? It's like, think of that. Think of that wild premise.
And to try to return back to their liberalist state. Because in some ways, liberalists believe that they've been robbed of human rights. It's a radicalism of people that, honestly, if the conservatives, like maybe 20 years ago, started assigning themselves the idea of human rights or public policy and things like that, there would probably have been a switch around for the conservative movement to be more actually the radical people.
Do you mean like the Civil Rights Act or
Civil Rights
Emancipation Proclamation, freedom of speech policy, Section 230, Second Amendment? Do you mean those kinds of rights?
Those kinds of rights, but
if the right had been spearheading those?
And probably a little bit more socialist ideals. But of course...
Well, it's not just change the definitions, right? What you can't do, or I would disagree with doing, is saying racist means conservative, because it doesn't, right? Most slaveholders would be Democrat, and I know we would talk about how the parties have switched. You can't say KKK equal, those would be largely Democrats. There's nothing conservative about racism. There's nothing.
Again, I think that we're saying Republican parties and Democratic parties when conservative.
That's what we're doing. We're discussing it here in the States.
Assignment of Republican, because if you want to argue that Republicans were liberating people, wouldn't that constitute as a left nowadays?
Why would that be left?
Because they're liberating people from slavery, and it's.
Is she confused? Because that was more of a right-wing thing. It was the Democrats in the majority South that wanted their slaves and wanted, in the North, they wanted to free the slaves. The South wanted free slaves.
Republican mindset. We don't.
No, I don't see how that would be left at all. As a matter of fact, I think your fundamental flaw that I would argue is this idea that the left is more concerned with individual liberty. That makes sense why you would ascribe conservatism to communism. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who agrees with you. But right now, on the political violence, let me ask you this.
Karl Marx, he was a conservative.
Wanted to do away with the nuclear family, wanted to seize the means of production and distribution. I just won't agree with you that anything about that is conservative.
Yeah, Karl Marx is a very leftist ideology. She is fully indoctrinated and wrong on this, trying to be thinking that, all the communism bad is all related to the right wing, but the socialism good is the left wing. And it's like, no, actually, those are both left-wing ideologies of communist and socialism. Try again.
Political violence, the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Confusing conservative with Republican ideals. And the Republican ideal is to protect the family. In some ways, you could say it's conservative.
Sure,
family,
conservative,
again,
and Karl Marx wanted the state to be in charge of the family.
That is the American perspective on conservatism.
Okay.
But the arrival of what is liberalism, what is conservatism, we can't assign it to American Republican Party or Democratic Party because people hold left-leaning views in the Republican Party.
Sure.
We can say that Republicans want to liberate the world from war nowadays, at least with Donald Trump's administration, and that the Democratic Party wanted to do more war in, Bush's era, right? So what is the confusing
Well,
part?
did you say Bush was a Republican? But I would agree with you.
Maybe is it Clinton? Clinton was.
Yeah, I mean,
Democrat,
I will
yes.
say this: all presidents have been more pro-war than how they campaigned, with the exception of Donald Trump. I think we would agree on that. Political violence.
Yeah, Donald Trump is by far one of the few members of few presidents we've had who's like, I'm not starting wars, I'm ending them. I mean, how many has he ended since he got in office? Or has he facilitated ending due to saying, like, hey, if you're at war, you don't get to sell or buy anything from the U.S. We're done. And then all of a sudden the countries are like, but that will destroy our economy if we can't trade with you. Trump's just like, well, you better solve your war issue then. And both countries all of a sudden come to the negotiating table and there's peace.
Assassination of Charlie Kirk in cold blood. Would that be leftist political violence?
I think that was a Satanist.
Okay.
A Satanist. Oh. A Satanist. I would call a Satanist that she could maybe have anything from the Minnesota shooting from that trans individual who literally was drawing Satan in the mirror of what he was, he saw himself as Satan. He looked in there and then he went in and killed a bunch of people who were, practicing their religious beliefs. That one I could give her. Now, the person who wrote Catch Fascist Bella Ciao and notices bulge oh whoa on his bullets. Yeah, no, that's very left-wing. I wouldn't classify that in any way anything but left-wing violence.
Daryl Brooks, Waukesha, running people over. He's a black supremacist who wanted to kill cops and white people. Would that be leftist political violence?
And he is a part of the BLM or Black Supremacy movement.
And would you not consider that among the left? Antifa, would that be considered among the left?
I think that they're assigning themselves a party to assimilate with, but that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't account for.
She's playing both sides and towing the line. I don't want to admit my side's bad, but they're bad.
Leftist values. Because
okay.
the leftist
so let me ask you, because I don't want to waste too much time on this. How would you curb political violence, right? The whole reason for crime statistics is a risk assessment.
I swear, if she says you got to turn down the rhetoric on both sides, it would just throw her off the table immediately. Get her out of there.
To see who's most likely to be victimized and prevent it in the future. I get that you're in college and I understand that things can be kind of nebulous or abstract, but there are real people dying.
Yeah.
Right? And some of them are people I've known. Sitting in this exact. Okay. So where is the violence coming from in the country right now when you take into account Charlie Kirk? I mean, what just happened here down the road at ICE or Alvarado, I'm not sure how it's pronounced as well. We haven't gone more than 3 days in the last 3 weeks without significant.
Yeah, the other leftist example of violence, the guy who wanted to scare ICE agents and make them afraid to be at work, and he wanted to kill a couple of them. He fully missed all 3 of his shots, killing 2 detainees and shooting a third, injuring him. And it's like, really? Like, not that I'm cheering for him to have succeeded in shooting ICE agents, but he made that plan. He went through everything, got his weapon, got his ammo, did the same kind of writing on the bullets. He didn't necessarily engrave them, but it looked more like he wrote them in Sharpie or pen or something. But still similar events there to Charlie's murderer. Excuse me. And then the dude couldn't have taken a simple shooting lesson or gone to the gun range and fired some shots to practice his shots. Like, not that I'm trying to get people killed, but like, if you're going to plan, you better make every part of your plan. Come on.
Significant acts of self-identified leftist terrorism. How would you curb it? If you're going to curb political violence, and it seems like you're not willing to say that anything is political within the paradigm as it's universally recognized, what would you do?
I think people need to go off social media.
Well, what she has to do first is accept that one side, the left, is far more violent right now than the right. And at that rate, then she can come up with a solution. But until she actually admits it, none of her solutions are going to work.
They're becoming radicalized through that.
Okay.
How much time can you spend on TikTok, like, cycling through the same, like...
TikTok's a big leftist echo chamber. I've seen so much where it's like, if some complaint is coming from to something against Donald Trump. Like when Donald Trump took 2 days off to go golfing for Labor Day weekend, Friday, Saturday, like Sunday morning, he had to appear in a photo because people thought he died. And some were even like, did he die? Is he dead? And they were like searching for it. They were excited, like giddy at the thought of the president of the United States dying. Like, don't they realize that this is the equivalence of killing Charlie Kirk? Erica Kirk, the far more conservative version of Charlie, takes over. You would be killing Trump and then getting the far tougher on crime J.D. Vance, who is far more conservative than Trump ever is. And it's like, yeah, you're going to get Vance. Vance is awesome. I quite like Vance, and I'm excited to follow his political career the next handful of years. Hopefully to becoming the next president after Trump. Hopefully. I hope.
Violent ideologies, because conservatives can have
I'm banned from TikTok because I said Xi Jinping has a small penis, so that's the Communist Party.
TikTok, I can say.
I mean, I'd probably get banned for saying he looks like Winnie the Pooh.
Instagram as well.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I agree that social media can be very toxic, but we're seeing real acts of violence. So assuming that you can't wave your magic wand and ban all social media.
Are you meaning in terms of like policies, like if I had a seat in...
Well, we need to identify the problem. Where do you think the political violence is coming from more right now?
I think on a global scale...
In the United States.
Both.
In the United States.
In the United States, I can't speak on the United States because I don't...
Because I don't have a statistic that goes with my side.
I think it's just the United States.
No, but that's what the conversation is today.
Right.
So if you don't want to, that's okay. But I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate the disagreement respectfully. You're never going to get me to say that the Communist Chinese Party is right wing.
Well, of course you wouldn't, because like you represent the...
Well, because it's just a lie. Saying the Chinese Communist Party is right wing is like saying the sky is black in the daytime. Or the sky is purple when there's no sun reflecting off, creating purple. Like, it's like, you'd be looking up and saying, oh, the sky's green today. Like, no, it's not. It's a cloudy day. It's just gray.
Conservative Party and the Republican Party mostly.
Well, there's no conservative party here. I'm just conservative.
There are examples of people who are carrying out things violently, but it is not just the leftist ideology. It is a religion to something greater. And that's what I just want to assign it, is that because, of course. And like I've kind of already iterated my points, but...
No, and I think, and we would agree, Karl Marx loathed religion and wanted to replace it with the religion of the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karl Marx wanted to replace everything with the government control. He wanted that to control your grocery stores, your housing, your job, wherever you did in society, everything you're doing, what car you drive. Like, he wanted to have the government to have full control over everything. And that's just not a right-wing conservative belief. I'm the exact opposite end of Karl Marx, where I'm like, almost no government control at all. I only want us to have a strong military so we can protect our borders and project our national strength to others and be like, hey, don't fuck with us. We'll mess you up. And well as to our allies, hey, no one's going to screw with you either, because then they'll have us coming after them too. So you're all protected and safe. And then as well as our strong military from my government that I want a government that also has a good control over the domestic police force. Like, that's all I would really have the main control is, like, defend us, keep us safe. You don't need to control us. You don't need to tell me where I'm going to work, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to drive, where I'm going to live. In fact, I'd rather you not know where I live, not know what I'm driving, not know as little about me as possible. I don't want a government file, as thick as a textbook.
And that's what we see from these leftists. But I appreciate you sitting down, Madison. Thank you very much. Are those furry pants? So that
they're furry pants. What?
Well, they're fur.
Bear pants.
They're bear pants. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Shoes that are very, very exclusive and rare. But
so, what took you back when I said furry pants? If they're bear pants, I didn't mean to offend you. They look like fur.
Well, they are.
I think she just thought he called her a furry. I think it's literally that simple, and her brain just is overloaded with being proven wrong, and she's trying to play, mental gymnastics enough to figure that she's right and that he caught her off guard talking about her clothing.
Okay,
Boston.
they're bear pants.
Are you a fan of Boston?
No, not very much. I only spent a little bit of time there with the hockey exchange. Montreal, we do an exchange with the Boston, and it's an intensely uneducated and often quite racist people. But thank you very much, Madison.
Of course.
I appreciate taking the time. God bless.
God bless.
Hey, I'll give her one of these. She even pushed her chair in when she was done. I'm going to jump a teeny bit ahead till we're back sitting with the next person. Is there a next person? Yes. Just because this video is long enough and the one I'm making is going to be even more so.
All right, now back to the regular programming, the changing of minds. Meet Andrew.
So I'm asserting that today, by and large, the tone, the temperature in this country, and the majority of political violence is coming from the left.
Okay.
And it's reaching a really serious boiling point. I've been observing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that violence doesn't occur across the board, but predominantly from the left. If you disagree, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
Yeah, so one thing, I'm curious where you think that political violence comes from, just kind of as a joke.
It comes from people hearing the Democrat Party leaders call people on the right Nazis, fascists, etc. It's like it comes from that hearing. You hear Trump is like Hitler, and then you're like, oh my God, Hitler was a terrible man who killed 6 million people. I have to stop him. I have to go shoot him. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to do any of that. You have to go take 2 steps back, take a Google, what did Hitler do? What did Trump do? And realize they're totally different people. One's a wealthy businessman who has some failing business, but has a lot of success, owning a lot of different property hotels across the nation, and in luxury hotels too, not just like cheap little quality inns. Like, come on, we've got that along with it. Well, the other guy that he's being compared to is a failed artist from Austria who immigrated himself to Germany and then was arrested at one point, where he got out, wrote a book that financed his way into power. Like, they're totally different people. If Hitler had maybe chosen a different path and just, been like, I'm going to, instead of go out and make myself in political power and then eliminate the people who I'm blaming for everything that's happened to me, then it could have gone differently if he had just like sold his book. And then maybe he's like, oh, maybe I'm a good author. Maybe he wrote another book. It could be different. It could have been. But let's see what else this kid thinks.
Where the violence on the left comes from?
Just where political violence, comes from, or on the left specifically, either way.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you where it comes from on the left exactly.
Yeah.
I can tell you because I've been on the receiving end many times. So the reason I stopped doing Change My Mind for years is because every single time out there was some kind of attack.
Yeah.
For exactly the kind of conversation we're having right now.
And as far as being attacked like he was repeatedly, I accidentally paused it. But he was attacked. It's like Charlie knew the risks when he came out. He knew there was a risk of him being attacked for his beliefs and the words he said. And he still went out and did it because it was important. It's important to have these conversations that Steven Crowder is now taking over. He's picking up the bloody microphone and talking just like me, just like some other YouTubers along the way. Another one I've seen who's picked up the mic and is definitely going to keep talking, will never shut up, and that's the good thing, is Nuxtaku, VTuber. He's great voice, great videos. We might react to some of them in the future.
I don't come out and instigate, but some people yell at me. Rocks, concrete milkshakes, Molotov cocktails, slashing tires, doxing. With Charlie Kirk, you're just seeing one that got through. He had all the security before he was assassinated in an act of leftist terrorism because there were many close calls.
Yeah.
So that then empirically that the recent polls from YouGov, from Reuters, show that a majority of those on the left believe that political violence is somewhat to completely acceptable.
Yeah.
In contrast to the right, so I'll address leftist political violence. If you refer to your political opposition, Donald Trump and his voters, as fascist, compare them to Nazis,
right.
Say they're racist, they support oppression of blacks through the police force, say that they want to commit genocide and erase trans people because they don't believe that children should transition or biological men and women's sports.
Say that they want to get rid of anybody who's not white with ICE agents and deportations, with his racism as well. That's another way they demonize
They're
them.
sexist, homophobic, and say, for example, specifically on Donald Trump, and this is the entire DNC, as far as national figureheads, saying, and you won't have another election again.
Yeah.
Because he won't give up the reins of power.
Yeah. I 100% would believe a Democrat would keep the reins of power and hold it before I would believe for even a day that Trump would be the guy to hold the reins of power. Like, he willingly gave it up to Biden. And it was a relatively peaceful transition of power. You did have the January 6th riot and attempt of insurrection, which I have, the more I discover about it, the more I realize that that whole thing was planned by the Democrats as a way to make Trump look like they tried to demonize him. They make him look bad. And then him getting banned off Twitter and everything, that was an even more secondary step to it. And it's like, okay, when you take the step back, he told the people who were there at the Capitol to go home that day. He didn't want them there. He wanted them to go home and stop. And then, you have Nancy Pelosi, who didn't bring in the National Guard there to stop anything. It's like, and there's 200 and something federal agents, FBI agents in the crowd. It's like, the more you learn about Jan 6, it's like they really tried to attack and demonize Trump, turning him into what they wanted to take out. And then, when that didn't work, they threw, the book at him legally attempts. And, then he was charged with 34 misdemeanors for what really are, or 34 felonies, which really are misdemeanor charges. If you take a look at what they actually are for, just because they found 34 of them, or were able to get 34. I still don't believe that all 34 are real. And then they're able to make it so that he's like, oh yeah, and then we're going to put him in jail for 700 years. And it's like, really? You just tried to jail your political opponent? What's more fascist than that?
If I believe that,
yeah,
I'd be in the street with a gun.
Right. So I guess from my view...
Do you understand that? Would you agree with that kind of premise?
No, I understand where that's coming from. And I think really, what has changed recently is there's been more hatred in politics. I guess, can we kind of agree with that?
And the other part of, if Trump really was a fascist, why did Kamala Harris give a peaceful transition of power to what they labeled a fascist?
I think that there's been increasing violence. I think that progressivism...
It's like, why would you willingly give your government control to the guy you've been calling Hitler for your entire campaign, and the entire 4 years you're president, because you're the vice president, if you're Kamala in this case, you're president, he, for 4 years, was perpetuating the narrative of Trump and conservatives, fascists, MAGA, bad movement.
Necessarily is predicated on divisiveness and hatred. I don't think that's the case with conservatism.
Interesting. I guess what part of progressivism do you think comes with that? I mean,
racial division, gender division, classist division.
Right.
You don't see the right saying, hey, these people are fascist and they want to genocide you.
No, I think that's fair.
And I think it's a necessary because, for example, leftism, socialism, right? You seize the means of production and distribution.
Right, yeah.
That requires violence. Lowering marginal tax rates does not.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there are forms of leftist ideology that have violence inherent in them, but I think there are also a lot on the political left. For example, my siblings, we get along fantastic, especially in an age where people lose relationships over politics. I'm really thankful to not have that be the case.
That's good. I'm glad this dude has his family connections still. It'd be a shame if, he wound up losing those connections, because that's a hard one.
Have two siblings on the left. Both my parents are moderate political right. And
can I ask you, are your siblings, like, would you say significantly left?
I'd say, as policy-wise, fairly so.
How did they respond to the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Oh, they were like fully in supportive of my devastation at the fact.
How did they respond to so many people on their side celebrating the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Oh, they were fully against that. And
well, that's why you can be friends with them,
right? And I think at the end of the day, I guess I'll just explain my view a little bit. As someone who's a man of faith and trying to kind of get less into the political sphere and more towards like how can I be bold in my faith, I don't see political violence as the problem. I see it as the symptom, and I think the problem is our lack of religion. And I think in order to then solve that problem, we need to kind of tackle it from the roots. And I know one thing you talk about, for example, is...
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think like we see a lot of crime in inner cities, right? Especially with young kids. That's not the problem. The problem is fatherlessness, right? And the crime is...
100%. I'm so happy he's bringing this part up. Fatherlessness in America is a massive epidemic, and that's one of the things that it breaks my heart so much, because it's something Charlie preached quite a bit, was the lack of fathers in America are damaging the youth, that every single home that has a mother and a father the kids grow up being better. There's lower rates of mental illnesses, and the success rate for families that are together and don't divorce and have strong bonds, they stick together and they are far more successful on average.
Kind of the symptom of that. I think I kind of see this in the same vein, right? Where we see this increasing political violence, and we have the question of like, how do we solve it, right? And I know I heard you kind of talking before, and you said like, well, it's on the left to solve it. But I think
on the left, what was that?
That it's on the people on the left to solve the violence problem.
No, I said it's incumbent upon them to take accountability for it. Yeah. And just even because I want you to continue, but if I may address your point, yes, I do believe that godlessness is the root. Is that what you're saying? Right, the root cause of it. Okay. Who seeks to replace faith in the Father with the state? Who seeks to replace God with the state?
I mean, I think it's the ideology of atheism more so than it is a political
No, it's a political ideology of the left. If you look into Marx and Engels.
I mean, I think that's a symptom, though.
Well, but that is the goal of leftist policies, right? Is replace God with the state. State is your God.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the root of the left.
In some vein, I think that's true.
100%. The root of the left wants to be in charge of you. They want control. They want to be able to tell you what you can do, where you can go, how long you can be there and do it for. They want to tell you what you can have. They want to control what you can get, how you get there. It's like they want all the control. On the other side of everything, it's like we want to have strong, but don't control us. Let us be free. Let us do what we want.
Again, I think religion comes first, and then politics outgrow from that. And it's interesting. So one thing, when Charlie was shot, I was devastated, especially as a young conservative man. It kind of really hit close to home, because like I was like, he was like an older brother to me, right? Like it was like just like a shocking moment, and like seeing people celebrate it, I was like, they'd celebrate my death too if they cared.
100% they would celebrate our deaths. Yours, mine, and I'm not even on the conservative right. I'm in the libertarian middle. I just also support what's currently going on for the most part. I don't want illegal immigrants here. Because, well, now there's 20 million, if the numbers are correct, there's at least 20 million illegal immigrants that broke through in the last administration. And with how many are here, there's a housing issue. So if all of a sudden we have 20 million less people, you'll have 20 million more places to live, whether it be apartments or actual homes, if, illegal immigrants somehow got a home illegally. Like, that shouldn't happen in America, but it probably 100% does. I would not put it past some of the specific super friendly to illegal states like California and New York to have put it past them to rent or allow illegals to buy homes. And yeah, it's a little screwed up.
Enough, right? I'm not relevant, but if I was relevant, they'd celebrate my death too.
Yeah.
And I caught myself in the day after. I go, I don't know how we can live with these people. And
you can't live with those people. The people that would gladly cheer for you to not be there, me to not be here. You can't live with them. You have to distance yourself from them. You have to shun them from society until they realize their wicked ways.
I'm kind of mad at myself for saying that. And the reason is...
And don't be mad at yourself for saying that. They brought it on themselves. You can be a good Christian man and be like, I love you, but I can't be near you because you are literally going to put me in danger.
Why?
Jesus never lived like that, right? And his followers never lived like that, right? They endured persecution as the cost to spread his message. And I think that as either conservatives or people who are followers of Christ, we're called to do the same thing. And I think that it's not necessarily like awful to say something like this, but I think it can also be kind of pragmatically unproductive because I don't think it actually goes at what the root cause is. And I think if we want to tackle... Sorry.
No, that's fine, don't worry. You can mess us all up.
If we want to tackle the root cause, our efforts should be on that, right? Should be on spreading Jesus and like his message and what he taught.
Sure. Well, I agree with that, and we do discuss faith quite a bit. I mean, the show we have Friday Apologetics episode.
Yeah.
But I would say that I would posit that it's misguided.
Okay.
Sell your cloak and buy a sword. Right. Jesus did not ask for his followers to die for their faith as a primary mechanism of spreading the faith. And he did talk about protecting themselves. Jesus conquered death. You can't.
Right.
Now, I know we all conquer death through the salvation, right? But as far as here, that's a very different... And I think that asking people on the right, especially people who are fathers, mothers, to willingly put ourselves out there and endure not only violent assault, but assassination, I just don't know how that's going to solve anything. Maybe you would have a point, and I don't know that I would agree theologically, if after the death of Charlie Kirk, if the left, and I've been saying this, the off-ramp for the left was saying, okay, look, we said that these people are fascists, we said that they're Nazis, we said, and people out there, my God, believe them, we're really sorry, we need to tone this down. Instead, you saw glee.
Yeah, if the left had just overwhelmingly said something similar to the lines to what he just delivered, that we're sorry we called you fascist, we're sorry we demonized you for so many years, we see what our words have done to encourage violence against you, and we're sorry for it. All of a sudden, you would have had a massive tune change of people going, oh, well, I guess we don't have, you wouldn't have had so many people getting fired from their jobs for celebrating. Those people would have been outcasted from their party. Like I've said, if I were a Democrat Party member, I would be embarrassed by the people who are going out and committing acts of violence, by the people who are calling people on the other side Nazis, fascists, to the people who are celebrating the death of someone on the other side. It's like, yay, you're gaining a little more political power because that voice won't be talking anymore, but somebody died. A good man was killed. A father, a husband, a son to his own mother and father, and it's like a family is now broken because of the words that the left chose to use to describe the right.
Full celebration thereafter. Polls that show a majority of those on the left believe it's somewhat to completely acceptable, and then blaming the right for violence and saying you guys need to tone down the temperature. There is no living with those people in their current state until they change. They need to be redeemed. And I understand they need Christ to redeem them. Right. But we can't be sitting ducks.
No. I mean, I don't think it's wrong to defend ourselves. But like, if we look at how the apostles taught, right? I think all but one were crucified or exiled for their views, right? Jesus said, not you might undergo persecution. He said you will go under persecution if you follow me, right? I mean, baptism is referred to as joining Jesus in death, right? We have these we have these very strong, either depending on the situation, metaphors or direct instructions that we will undergo persecution. And the reason that we're able to do that is we know that we're saved through Christ, right? It's the most beautiful thing, right?
And I understand, but this is one thing where I do get off with a lot of modern Christian theology.
Right.
And I think that you'll probably find more consistent teachings like in Orthodoxy, for example, and I'm not Orthodox or even, what traditionally the Catholic Church, I know there's been splinters, is no one is called to die. No one is called to die. I shouldn't say no one. We are not called to die as a primary means of spreading the gospel. And right now, Charlie Kirk, let me put it this way, he was hunted.
Yeah.
By definition, he was hunted, just as I had been hunted. And you're one viral tweet, you're one viral video, one post away from being hunted yourself. And for us to say, well, let's just deal with them in love. When you look at systemically, right? We'll use the term the left does. Systemically, people who commit violent crimes against us, they're released on the IOU policy.
Yeah.
Right? Cashless bail. Hey, you're not fit to stand trial. Think of Irina Zarutska before Charlie Kirk. That guy was out 14 times. George Floyd, I believe, was 6 or 9 times.
Yeah.
It is an evil ideology that has permeated the halls of our institutions that does need to be dealt with. And I don't think we can deal with that by just...
And the other thing I was thinking of, it's been a thought in my mind for, almost a month now, is the last story Charlie was really covering heavily was Irina Zarutska, talking about, how the justice system in America completely failed her, that Democrat cities have completely fallen apart, and their policies have allowed criminals to run rampant. And for, I hate the term in America when we have the thing called the career criminal. It's like, we shouldn't have career criminals. You shouldn't have a career as a criminal. You should be in jail if you're a criminal, or you should just not be a criminal. That decision should be absolutely set in stone.
Turning ourselves into martyrs. I'm willing to be a martyr.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
No, I don't think you should necessarily want to be. But I think if we're both looking historically as to how the gospel was spread, it was spread through people who were willing to die for their faith.
Sure, willing to die.
In fact, I see it in the same vein as...
Stephen, right? I was named after the first martyr.
Right.
I'm like, thanks, Mom.
I'm Andrew, so also understand. Yeah. No, I think that... Sorry, just kind of losing my train of thought. But
that's okay, brother. I get it.
Yeah, so both how the gospel was spread historically through people who were martyred, and then also in kind of modern examples, right? A necessary sacrifice of being a man is being willing to die for others, right? It's not that we want to die for others. It's not that we shouldn't defend ourselves, right? And I think one key thing is, Jesus loved everyone, but the way he loved them was not through being passive, right? I mean, very clearly, the way he loved people was by unequivocally telling them the truth, right? And he didn't back down, right? And it got him killed for telling the truth, right? But he also loved everyone, even those who hated him, right? I mean, he spoke out against the Pharisees, he spoke out against other religious hypocrites, he spoke out against those committing sins, right? And I think the same form of love that he practiced is what we should try to practice within that, because at the end of the day, this violence is going to keep continuing.
Yeah.
And
do you mean like sitting down at a table, discuss it, to listen, having...
I accidentally hit the pause button instead of pausing the video. Wrong pause I hit. But yeah, what he's saying there is the violence will continue until something changes in the rhetoric, whether it's toned down by the left or something really bad happens and it's forced upon to be toned down. Let's hope not, because one thing that I could see that could really turn around and smack the left in the face with a bunch extra, hey, you can't do that anymore, is if all of a sudden an ICE agent gets killed at one of these facilities, where, you're having to call DHS in because they're protesting for over 100 days outside Portland's ICE facility, or the other protests going on in Chicago during theirs. It's like... Excuse me. You've got both those places with heavy protests. It's like anyone in either of those crowds, especially Chicago, very well known for its gun violence, historically known. You're looking at it and you're going, okay, what if somebody gets killed here on either side? What if one of the protesters is a bad shot like the guy from the Dallas ICE facility and he kills people on his own side again? Is all of a sudden the people on the left going to have a civil war and attack themselves from within their own party? Are they going to accidentally kill, or not accidentally, on purpose, get someone on the right killed who is even bigger of a message than Charlie? Maybe one of the cabinet members, a senator. It's who knows? Someone could impact it even greater. And all of a sudden, now you have not 3% of people on the right ready for political violence, but it's 30%. And then you're like, The right has way more firearms than the left.
A dialogue like this.
I think you're doing exactly what
Because we get killed anyway.
Right.
You know what else
Yeah.
you need to be willing to do? Not just willing to die.
Yeah.
Willing to fight.
Yeah.
Willing to kill if it comes to it. I'm not talking about going out and killing people in the streets. I'm talking about you are called as a Christian man. I'm assuming you're not married.
Correct.
Otherwise, you just moisturize.
Not yet.
You are called to protect your family with your sword. You are called for righteous violence.
Yeah, 100%. I say any person in the United States who owns a home, regardless of which state you're in, you should have a firearm in that home to defend it. That home is your castle, and you should defend your castle, and you shouldn't let anyone come in and harm you or take away the safety that is your place of residence, your home. If someone comes into your home, they should expect, to witness the barrel of a weapon. They should expect to either be deterred by, oh, I could get shot, goodbye. Or, they get shot and then maybe they don't make it and they're carried out and they didn't learn their lesson. I don't want that every time, but that will probably happen.
Violence when needed. And people have misconstrued what I've said, where I've said it is time for ruthless, lawful defense. And what I mean by that is I've been attacked so many times at these things where I've said, not anymore. We're not going to allow it. I don't know if that milkshake is strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, concrete, or acid.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But just like a father who loves his child, you spoil the rod, you spare the child, right?
Right.
We love this country, and we see an evil permeating.
You said that backward, but...
Yeah.
And speaking truth sometimes is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we got to keep our chin down and hands up.
Right.
And I don't think we have any disagreement. And I don't think that this statement is unproductive. It's the truth. And the truth is merely the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm not saying that telling the truth is not productive, but I think at the end of the day, you do have to go to the roots. And even if, let's just say we all carry guns around as Christian men, we defend our families, right? If we still allow atheism as an ideology to become widespread because we don't have these conversations, which I think what you're doing right now is
atheism or other violent religions that are known to be violent via their history, what they've done in the past, what they're doing now, and that's a good measure for what they could do in the future.
It's like exactly what we need to be doing.
All right, good.
Oh, and it's totally
And I'm not giving Christians the doubt there because, the Crusades were a thing.
what Jesus did, right? He talked to everyone, right? He said, I'm here. Come talk to me.
I don't know if Jesus ever sat down with a self-identified bionic furry, but times change.
No. But I mean, he talked to the Samaritan woman.
You wonder, after he says that, what was the, bionic furry of Jesus's generation, of Jesus's times? Like, what was the equivalence of the absolute craziness of someone back then that is today's levels that we have? I don't know, but it makes you wonder, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was like, why are you even talking to me, right? I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew. And so I think, he was willing to have the tough conversations. He was willing to spread love to everyone. And I think in our current context, if we simply go around, we fight using the sword, right? It's not necessarily about...
Well, I'm not advocating that.
No, and we should defend those who matter to us, and we should defend ourselves. But at the end of the day, if we don't tackle the root problem, it's just going to get worse. And I think, at least from my perspective, what we're seeing is kind of my parents' generation, the kind of what was it, Gen X? Was the first generation that rejected Christ en masse as a generation. But they still accepted the moral precepts.
I'd say the baby boom because a lot of them turned it into weird Christian hippie shit.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
No matter who we said it was, but they were the first ones to reject it, but they still accepted the moral precepts that Christianity taught, right? They still accepted we're all human beings, murder's wrong, theft's wrong, sexual immorality is
men are men
wrong, men are men, right? Still accepted by that generation. This new generation is saying, if we don't believe in God, we don't have to believe in any of that stuff. And I think that's the ideology that's resulting in this political violence, right? Because it's the ideology.
Well, I would take it one step further. It's the marriage of that ideology with government as a means of enforcing it. And that's Marxism, that's socialism.
Yeah.
And that's why if you look at the left, the modern political left, it is deeply anti-God in every facet. It says there is no such thing as a life until literally it's outside of the vaginal lips. Not even, by the way, and I don't say that to be, and I think we should be shocking as Christians truth, because we're not even just talking about in the uterus. Literally until it leaves the vaginal lips, it's not a life. And sometimes, we saw Governor Northam, even afterwards, we might allow that child to die. We should allow children to mutilate their genitals. Right? Beyond puberty.
If you have to be 18 to get a tattoo, join the army, and make other decisions, be able to get a credit card and sign up and go into shitloads of debt, then you have to be 18 to be able to decide to go on different blockers and whatnot to, change your gender and not. It's just so you can have a normal childhood still. If you're 8 years old and transgender, your parent has a mental illness. If you're 18 years old and you want to be transgender, you might have a mental illness, or maybe it is gender dysphoria. There's a lot fewer cases than what is claimed to be, though. 100%. It is over exaggerated.
Blockers. Not only that, we should take children away from their parents if they want to protect them and hide them in Minnesota where the parents can't find out about them. This is deeply evil, and the means of enforcing said evil is the state, and the only side interested in doing that en masse is the Democrat Party and the modern political left, and so I don't think you can separate the two. And my only disagreement, it wouldn't be disagreement on I don't think anything as far as our precepts, is on the methodology. There's a big reason that Gen Z has become more conservative. And a big reason for that is that people like myself and people like Charlie Kirk and a lot of people who sort of, spearheaded this, we were no longer concerned with offense. The church was very feminized and very concerned with keeping the tithes in because women brought their kids to Sunday school, and you know what? We don't want to offend anyone. And I think being curt but honest and blunt and having a backbone has resulted in a lot more headway than this sort of agape love Christianity. And it doesn't mean that you don't love people. But this conversation, I used to get more letters from Christians when I would start this exact kind of thing, saying, that's going to offend people. I don't give a shit.
No, and I don't think it's wrong necessarily. I think that it would just be more helpful to, I guess, kind of tackle what I see as the root cause of all of this. In the rise of atheism, because at the end of the day, if we just treat the symptom, right, it's what the welfare state did, right? It treated the symptom. But if we don't tackle the problem, and if we do both at once, I think that's great, right? If we say,
I think that's what I think. We need to do both at once.
So I suppose the inherent statement, because I do see a lot of political violence on the left, that statement is not necessarily wrong. I just don't think it's the whole picture, and I think the accompanying statement must always be made that this political violence and hatred comes at the root source from the idea that we don't have a God, there's no objective morality, and that's what's resulting in that ideology and that hate. Because
I agree with the root cause of it. The problem is you can't argue that with someone who simply rejects the precept of God. In other words, you have to meet them on their territory and gradually pull them over to this concept where you can get them to agree, and I'm kind of good at this, you can get them to agree on some terms, for example, political violence. You can get them to agree on certain policies and then ask the why. And for example, I sat down, my favorite change my mind that I ever did, I had a girl sit down, because I'm pro-life, change my mind. And she said, well, I don't know why you would judge me. I had to have an abortion. I didn't have a choice. I said, you did have a choice. I said, you know what? You're going to meet that child in heaven one day. She came back on the show 2 weeks later via Zoom, and she'd become a pro-life activist.
Praise God.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Every single child that is conceived deserves the chance at life, regardless of what may happen. If you go through the pregnancy, the only time I will say it is okay to have an abortion is when it is medically necessary for the parent to survive, the mother of the child, or because the child is in danger and needs to be removed and put in some prenatal care or something because XYZ reasons. There's a million of them out there. It's like that the only reason you should get an abortion is if you literally are dying. It will kill you. Like having a baby changes you. From what I've been told, when you have kids, it's like being born a second time, except this time you're born as an adult, as someone who now has this thing that's reliant on you for everything, for at least probably the next 18 years, financially speaking, and for the next at least 5 to 10 years worth of, I have to keep a real close eye to make sure this thing I created, this life I made, doesn't hurt itself. And I fully believe that what people say is, you're born again, you feel like a new person. Because when my brother had his kid with his wife, my niece, she's wonderful. I wouldn't trade anything. I would do anything for that kid. That kid is awesome.
But I didn't start with something that she wouldn't hear.
Right.
So this is to start the conversation, and then the conversations result in this. But I will say, I assume you're raised in the church, or raised with a Christian family?
Yes.
Yeah. And SMU is relatively moderate as far as schools.
Yeah.
There is a whole dark world that awaits you, and I want you to put the armor of the Lord on.
Oh, I'm from Connecticut.
Okay, all right. Yeah. There you go. It's got the McMahons there. They do some weird stuff. But, all right. Well, was it Andrew?
Yes. I know this is unconventional. Is it cool if I pray with you real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done that several times.
Beautiful.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for Stephen and what he's doing out here, and I just ask that you can use his voice as to be an ambassador for your will. I thank you for the ability to have this beautiful day, this beautiful breeze, and have conversations out here. And I just ask that you are present with and bless everyone that is in attendance today, as well as everyone in our country, those who are struggling, and sometimes most importantly to pray for. God is our enemies and those who fervently disagree with us. Even if they want us dead, we have to pray for their salvation and for them to come around. And we just appreciate having this gift of life, that we're able to do this and able to hopefully do your will and do this in your name. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Jesus' name.
And I want to add to his prayer a little bit that we also pray for safety for anybody who's out on campuses, whether on the left or the right. It doesn't matter which side. You all deserve to live. You all deserve to share your opinions and have your opinions challenged.
Amen. I apologize because I looked around a couple times to make sure no one was coming in hot.
Oh, no.
But
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you.
God bless you. I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the other sad part, is that he actually had to sit there and look around and scan the area to make sure no one was going to come hurt him. Is there another person? Okay, there is. Cool.
Okay, so you see the conversations thus far. A little of column A, a little of column B. Which ones do you enjoy watching most? Comment below. And by the way, none of this happens.
I enjoy both conversations. I enjoy the ones where the person comes up and he's pretty much on the same side as the person doing the debate. And I also really appreciate the ones who are on the opposite side, because some of them you're like, where did you learn these? What statistics are you doing? Why purposely are you doing? Do you believe this way? And for some of them, I come away thinking, okay, I can see where you're coming from on that, but I would like you to think of this or that.
Without your support, consider joining Rumble Premium. By clicking the link in the description, you get 100% more everything. Chris Tuffer.
There we go.
Chris.
I don't know how familiar you are with what this series is, but
first time hearing about it the most, but I know the memes.
So,
I
of course he knows the meme.
Didn't see that one coming. As far as when it happened, I was like, oh, it was just me at a table.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it's not. It's not clips and reels and shorts and dunks and gotcha and clickbait. If this conversation is productive and we're both having it in good faith.
I'm going to skip ahead a teeny bit just to get over his little intro.
I don't know if you know this. People in media do that shit.
Yes.
Could you do me a favor? Just take that. That's yours. The QR code. You can go check the references.
Thank you.
And fact check me in case I'm lying to you. Because people, I don't know if you know this. People in media do that shit.
Yes.
Could you do me a favor?
Yep.
And just so we agree, kind of read this: political violence, terrorism. This is defined by the current sources being cited out there. Political violence. You vote Democrat, and you accidentally hit someone with your car today.
Yeah.
We agree.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Jumping beyond that, we had it in the first one.
Is that by and large, the tone, tenor, temperature right now, certainly in 2025, of political violence is coming overwhelmingly from the left. And I think this leads nowhere good unless the course corrects. If you disagree, you're welcome to change my mind.
So, I would disagree, one, in the statement that these blanket statements of the left is violent hurts the idea, creates a divisiveness of us versus them. I agree with what you're saying. I've been hearing your stats as well.
I disagree right off the bat with him that it doesn't create a divisiveness between the two. I think it just explains a fact that shows, hey, these guys are more violent than those guys. These guys literally celebrated the death of one of those guys. These are just facts we're showing. We would like to share facts, truth, and have hard data to back things up. But, when you have all the videos of people, that F that guy, he got shot in the neck. It's like, oh, well, why are you cheering? Now there's a couple of kids in the world without a father, another set of kids without a father, a wife without her husband anymore. She now is a single mother who now has to do a lot more for her family that she was not expecting to do when she woke up that day.
That, yes, it's disproportionately on the left as of late, and the stats I've seen, as you defined. I think...
So you agree with that?
I agree with that aspect.
Well, would it surprise you that a lot of people don't agree with that? They say, well, there's more violence on the right. That's the talking point.
However...
That's just because of how much right-wing violence has been portrayed by the left-wing owned and bought media for so many years. It's like, I don't want to be the guy who's preaching Fox News all the time. However, when you go look up a story, they give you facts, they give you data, and then they give you the, conservative perspective of everything. And then you go look it up and you realize, well, their facts are right, their data matches up, and the narrative does fit how they shared it. It's like, how are you going to say no? That is kind of defined in truth.
Even if there is more violence on the right, or even if there is more violence on the left, I think violence as a whole is a problem. But I think you're also going to have violence as you radicalize groups, regardless.
Sure. May I address that? Just because we are a little bit tight for time right now, I apologize.
Totally fine.
And I hear about radicalizing a lot. And by the way, the reason for that is, I can fit it on a sign, and then I provide the context when we sit down. So I'm matching the rhetoric of the left, right? They say, the right commits more crime. I go, well, no, actually the left is violent. But then I think I explain it contextually.
Absolutely.
We hear about radicalizing a lot. So, and I think that does happen. I don't think it's possible to be in a right-wing echo chamber because all of media, all of Hollywood, all of mainstream press, these institutions in academia lean heavily left.
Yeah, it's very easy to fall into a left-wing echo chamber, whether it be Reddit, whether it be Hollywood movies, film, Netflix, shows, etc. The newer media, the online media, whether it's a Discord group or a Twitch streamer, or it's like there's certain things that it's like going on and saying you get targeted.
I think some people can silo themselves off, but still, people on the right are more aware of the positions on the left than vice versa.
Yeah, right-wing echo chamber, I really don't know where you would describe one. I don't know if one even exists in today. Maybe certain Facebook groups, but even then I've seen way more left-related memes and posts on Facebook even, and I don't even go there that often, so there's that. And, being more conservative leaning / libertarian middle, it's like, I don't have those pages I'm following. I have a few little things here or there, a friend or two here and there, maybe someone over there, someone over here, and it's like, okay, we got a couple here or there, but you're looking at it all, and it's like, okay, there's left-wing echo chamber, there's left-wing echo chamber on Reddit, there's left-wing echo chambers all over Discord, many different groups. And then it's like, okay, you've got the whole LGBT movement and ideologies with all that. And it's like, okay, that's all left-wing. So it's very easy to find the left-wing echo chamber to be able to get sucked in, which is why I think it's so easy for so many on the left to not realize how big the right was and why we won the last election, why they won the last election with the popular vote.
But we hear about radicalizing. Let me ask you this. Okay, you disagree with that?
I would definitely.
But let's assume somebody's watching all the right-wing channels. Okay. Is there anything that you can think of more radicalizing than a moderate conservative who sat down and spoke peacefully, being politically assassinated as an act of terrorism in cold blood, and then gleefully celebrated thereafter when we tried to host peaceful memorials to mourn the death of our own, showing up, attacking, desecrating, spitting at every single vigil and memorial, and then blaming the right and saying we need to tone down the temperature? In other words, if you're a young conservative who watched Charlie Kirk, or could have been me, by the way, sitting in that chair, because there have been many attempts.
Yeah, I am saddened to have been one of the people who have seen that footage of him getting shot. The including or not including gang violence. Sit down. Bam! Immediate head tilt, blood spewing from the neck, and it was like, oh my god, he's dead. Once I saw the footage, and then they were saying that he was stabilized at the hospital, I'm like, if he was stabilized, he's paralyzed from the neck down for the rest of his life. But I was 99% certain he didn't make it.
Yep. I don't think there's anything on earth that could be more.
I was unlucky enough to see it. It was horrifying. It was unsettling. And to see it again, if it were ever to happen, knock on wood that it fucking doesn't. But man, if it were to ever happen again, it's like, that will polarize the nation. It might even remove the rest of the left-wing violent voters. It's like they are killing their own voter base. Be embarrassed to be on the side that is excited when one person on the other side dies. Be embarrassed to be over there if people around you are celebrating others' deaths when those others are just someone who sat down. Someone who just sat down and wanted conversation.
Radicalizing than that, because the left still kept blaming the right. They didn't take the off-ramp.
Okay, but I would also argue we don't know all the motivations behind why the shooter did what he
Sure we
did.
do.
Also, we can't...
We do.
Okay, but it was come out and stated that he was, like, doing this for left-leaning political reasons.
He said it.
Far before you could have even known what it was.
No.
A lot of the statements... All right.
Are you aware that, by the way...
It was almost predicted exactly who the shooter was, what his position leaning was before they caught him. It was like a day ahead, and they were predicting some trans individual who was upset with Charlie Kirk because of the things he said about them, and it was like, we were only a step off. He wasn't trans, but his boyfriend was. Girlfriend, whatever your word you're choosing. I don't think the person officially started any transition yet or had just begun. So at this point, I would still say boyfriend of the shooter, and it's like, yeah, being gay is okay to be you can be gay and be a conservative. There's plenty of people in even Trump's cabinet who are gay. Trump has tons of people around him who are gay. It's like he's not against it. And, you know, there's a couple senators in the House of Representatives who are trans. It's like, we're not against you. Just, we predicted the ideology of the shooter based on a few things that Charlie said, especially right after the FBI got bullet casings that really also helped fit that narrative. Anti-fascist. Notices bulge, ooh woo. Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao. Like, come on. They're exactly what you would think. It's the leftist ideology for every single motive there.
This is just because it's relevant. We had a leak under the DOD. So we were my team right here, they were the people who broke the news that there were engravings on the bullet casings. Okay. That were anti-fascist, that were weird trans sort of 4chan type stuff. That's the OWO notices bulge. And the reason it was leaked to us from someone at DOD, DOJ, is because they were concerned that it would be buried. So when we released that, which of course now we know is true, it's been confirmed, we were tarred and feathered as liars and purveyors of fake news. So we knew it before anyone else, and I've been following it since. He said it was an act of political violence. He said that he killed Charlie Kirk because he was hateful and fascist. That's enough for me.
Yeah, he basically said some hate can't be negotiated out, and it's really sad that he took that route, calling him a fascist while doing the most fascist thing I could think of doing, and that is killing someone for their political views.
Okay. That is wrong. Absolutely. And so I can agree with
Well, not wrong. Do we agree that it's pretty clear what the motives are if the person who does it says it?
Yes, if he's said it...
Hey, got him to agree.
I mean, you could still...
And engraved it?
The mental gymnastics here. This dude must be exhausted trying to agree but be like, but no, it wasn't really, but... No, it was. It was fully politically motivated. A lefty guy who wanted to shut Charlie up because what Charlie was saying was working. He couldn't stop Charlie. He couldn't out-debate him, so he went out and shot him.
Engraving, though, isn't necessarily leftist. Like, I think you could definitely...
He 100% agree. Engraving your bullets is not a leftist thing, but what he engraved them with directed us that way and kind of proved that, yeah, he probably is. And then we caught him, and hey, guess what? He is.
Make an argument that it is leftist, but you could also make an argument one, you could easily make an argument that you wanted to add division.
Shooting Charlie Kirk with a bullet engraving that says "fuck fascism" when Charlie Kirk, and by the way, yours truly, have been accused of being fascist for a decade, and then you read the writings of him saying he's hateful. That seems pretty clear to me. In other words, you sent a bullet with the engraving "fuck fascism" at the person.
Absolutely.
People said Charlie Kirk was a fascist. This person believed it, shot him because he believed he was a fascist. Is that not clear?
That is clear. What I would say, though, is that doesn't okay. That doesn't necessarily mean it's far.
But he just had to, I can't argue this. I need to,
Far leftist. But even if in this case it is far leftist, I still don't think.
Would we agree that the reasoning for the murder was the rhetoric of the left? They are the ones who accuse people like myself and Charlie Kirk of being fascist in comparisons to Hitler. If they weren't doing it, no one would think we're fascist.
I would agree that the rhetoric on both sides, though.
No, not on both sides.
No, not on both sides.
We don't accuse the left.
The rhetoric of the left, not the rhetoric of both sides, just the left. The right doesn't call the left fascists. We call them stupid, and we might call you retarded, but when a fly is flying...
...to being fascist and Hitler.
I agree, that's not necessarily happening, but I think that rhetoric in general, this far push, we are pushing so heavily towards a us versus them statement on both sides, on both the left and the right, that the other guy is evil and the other guy is wrong. And that is true of a lot of both people that I know personally and in general, and we gain nothing from an us versus them mentality. Ever. The only time you can get benefit and value, that's the whole point of your show, is to build a relationship with somebody and talk through your problems. And it's when you recognize that the other
build a relationship based on truth, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't believe in linking hands with people who celebrate the assassination.
I don't agree. I also agree with that, but I also, I don't agree with that we should link hands with the people who call us fascists and slander us, create libel if it's in print form. It's like, everything you're doing here is encouraging and just throwing tinder in, or throwing logs into the tinder box, getting ready to set ablaze something big. And it's like, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, the quicker we're going to get to the point where, a bomb goes off and kills, half the DNC because someone on the right finally was like, I've had it with them killing all my friends. Or the reverse of it. The left is like, they're Nazis. I need to stop them. They've taken over the government and they're not going to give it up in 28. He's going to keep going. He's going for a third term. Even though it's fully a joke. He's playing into it for the memes, for the lulz. I won't be voting Trump a third term as much as I would enjoy it. I'm voting Vance in the next election if he's the candidate. Because I don't see who else could be. There's a few other good choices, but he's my top pick. And it's like, you don't want someone to set off a bomb at the DNC or the RNC and kill a real large amount of us. It's like, either side, that would be very, very bad.
And the problem is that 62% of those on the left, 62%, YouGov poll after Charlie Kirk was killed, 62% on the left believed that it was somewhat to completely acceptable political violence. 77% of self-identified conservatives said no. Snap poll before Charlie Kirk was killed, 6-1, left supports violence over the right. Another poll from Rutgers after Donald Trump, the attempted assassination, over 60% on the left supported it. You don't find that from conservatives against Kamala Harris. Over 60% firebombing Teslas, over 60% assassin. So in other words, you do have to look at the rhetoric, you do have to look at the acts of violence, and you do have to look at the preponderance of evidence, the totality of the polls that shows one side of the political aisle justifies, supports political violence as a means to an end, and that is the left.
What about January 6th, as an example?
I'm so happy we got to this point.
Let me give you some context for January 6th. Do you realize that more people at ICE facilities in the state of Texas have been killed by left-wing violence in the last week than all of January 6th combined?
Sorry to the people who died, but that statistic is just hilarious when he's bringing it up and he's like, January 6th. Boom. It's like, no. First off, the Capitol was opened. The Capitol Police let everyone in. They didn't bust in. Nancy Pelosi refused to call in the National Guard to help secure the area. There were a few people who were causing disturbances and destruction, but also there was a lot of people just planted in the crowd. There was over 270 federal agents in that crowd. And that's a new fact that was learned within the past couple weeks.
There weren't deaths or killing during January 6th, major ones, because it's the Capitol.
But my point is, why do you reach back to January 6th for whataboutism? Right up the street, you have more violence than January 6th.
Also,
and we haven't gone 3 days in the last 2 weeks without leftist violence. In other words, there's no equivalency. What about January 6th?
I agree, but however, also you have to recognize that, for one, the aspects of ICE, I think that is a major issue and a major problem. And if we
No, it's not. ICE is here to remove people who don't belong in the country. And when they have to go into a sanctuary city with an ICE raid, they come in, they have a warrant to find a person because that person was arrested, sent in the system, written their warrant in, and then they were released because they're an illegal immigrant. And the sanctuary city policy is to not cooperate and call ICE when you have stuff like that. Your policy is just to turn them, let them loose, make them come back when they have all their court hearings and whatnot, and just have that go through. You're not trying to arrest them. You're not trying to have them sit in jail where ICE can just come pick them up. Those cities are trying to make it harder for ICE to do their job. It's like if every illegal immigrant that was arrested was just all of a sudden, a call made to ICE and be like, hey, we got another one, come pick them up. All of a sudden, there wouldn't be any more raids. ICE wouldn't have to be such a large force in today, because I do think they have too much of the budget, but for this, at least this current year, it is a necessity to help fix the problems created by the previous administrations and the lack of care that some of them took. And this administration might make a mistake or two, but so far, the only quote-unquote mistake was deporting someone who had a deportation order back to a country that he wasn't wanting to go back to. That was the only mistake. He was supposed to leave. He just wasn't supposed to go where we sent him, which made it a problem for people.
We could have time to go into that.
I know we don't have. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry because
they're booting us because of security.
Easy to go into, but that right there is a major problem as well, and I think there is something to be said.
How so?
With ICE and all that. The lack of due process given to immigrants being deported.
Okay, so what you just said, I just want you to bear with me here. That kind of rhetoric, that there's a problem with ICE, no due process, people who are here illegally are not entitled to the same due process as American citizens, and that kind of rhetoric is why people shoot up ICE facilities. They're doing their job. A slight change in deportation policies, and by the way, I mean very slight, because Barack Obama did it too. He had to
Barack Obama at this moment has deported total of about at the moment I think it's about 6 times the amount of people that Trump has so far, and Obama didn't even run on mass deportations like Trump did. Trump ran on mass deportations. They were a big portion of his, we've got to get them out. We've got to have a legal, good immigration process. We've got to be able to do these things, XYZ, to be able to come into the country, get here legally, and you're going to come in and follow our laws and, do things the proper way. Be able to understand our laws. You can't just know them. You got to understand them and know how to follow them. Because, ignorance, even being ignorant to a crime, if you still commit it, you did commit the crime, even if it's ignorance.
give speeches on it because he was like, guys, we have to deport some people. A slight change in border policy.
And Obama had people literally in cages. I saw those photos. That was absolutely fucked up of him to do back then, and his administration to have been as rough as they were. Like, that ICE was a horrid organization, made mistakes left and right all the time. Our current one has done so much better. They're, following their processes, and even though it's not the quote-unquote due process that American citizens get, These people didn't want the due process to come in legally anyway, so why would I want to give it to them on their way out?
Is not something that warrants any kind of justification for the fomenting violence that we see from the left. ICE is doing their job, and illegal aliens are not entitled to due process. They never have been.
Constitution, peoples in the U.S. are entitled to due process.
To American citizens.
Only American citizens deserve the due process system. If you took the time to come here legally, by all means, get your due process, get your court date, have your justice, have your jury be able to say that whether or not you can stay or not, or whether you're guilty or innocent, if other crime, etc. It doesn't matter otherwise. If you're illegal in the country and that's provable, well, guess what? We get to the point where it's like, oh, we've got XYZ and goodbye.
Natural American citizens,
And
naturalized American citizens.
Okay,
Someone happens to set foot in our country, if they're a terrorist, they're entitled to due process, as opposed to, and we're not, by the way, executing them, we're deporting them, we're sending them back to their country of origin.
Yes, because that is what makes America amazing, is that you are innocent until proven guilty.
Where are you getting this idea that anyone who enters the country is entitled to our constitutional rights and due process? Where are you getting that?
People in the U.S.
But where are you getting this idea? In other words, that's not anywhere in our law.
It's not in our laws, not in our Constitution. It's not built in there that if you're in the country, you just get these rights and privileges. It's no, you are a legal citizen. You are a citizen of our nation.
Laws in our founding and our Constitution that anyone who comes into this country illegally is entitled to due process and our constitutional rights. They're not. Where are you getting that?
In we the people under the U.S. It is.
They are not we the people. They're not Americans. They're not allowed to be here legally.
But
should violent criminals be allowed to vote on law that relates to crime?
Be allowed to have due process.
Why? Where are you getting it?
Because of the fact.
Aside from you feel that they should,
Fair.
What's the basis for it?
Because that's how the Constitution is stated.
It's not.
No, it isn't.
Is that
false?
It is not.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So where are you basing it if not that?
Fine.
But the problem is you have people saying, hey, ICE are breaking up families. Hey, they're violating human rights.
They can be deported together.
Civil rights. Hey, you know what? Let me put it this way. And we do have to get going.
Yeah,
if I believed that Joe Biden, if I believed what the left believes about Donald Trump and me as a voter, if I believed that Joe Biden was rounding up and killing white Christian men, if I believed that Joe Biden was a fascist, if I believed that Joe Biden was committing genocide, if I believed that Joe Biden was doing all of this, would strip us of all of our foundational, fundamental rights, and would never relinquish the reins of power or have a democratic election again, I'd be in the street with a gun. Those on the left believe every single one of those premises about Donald Trump and his voters. So do you understand why there's the violence?
Also, again, I would say that
just like the beliefs about ICE.
But that is a generalization again, because you're saying every single one of the voters on the left, everybody on the left believes every single one of those.
A majority of people.
It's the majorities, and that's what when we say every, we don't mean every single individual. It's just the majority. They're just words to describe majority.
On the left believe that. They believe what you believe about ICE. These are men doing their job. A slight change in border policy, that little rationalization leads to violence. Just like Charlie Kirk was a fascist and it was engraved in a bullet.
So here's the other side. I absolutely agree with you that we should not be labeling people as necessarily things. They have beliefs.
Okay.
There are beliefs that I do not think Charlie Kirk should have been shot. Absolutely.
I know, I know that, but too many on the left do.
No, absolutely. But I still believe that some of his beliefs were homophobic. But I'm not saying that he was a homophobe. And I think that's such a major thing that people have beliefs and we can talk through them about that. But
we can't though. We do have to leave it on this.
We can't talk. Charlie Kirk is evidence of that. He was literally killed while talking. He was trying to talk, trying to have a conversation and it was about crime stats. And then he was silenced because he was talking about it, because someone didn't like what he had to say.
Because we get killed. That's the point. When the left, when you say don't label, when people, and the left says tone it down from sitting at a table and having a conversation with anyone who will listen, because they took.
Yeah, that's pretty toned down to me, being stationary at a table with a microphone saying, hey, come have a conversation with me. That's pretty toned down. The not toned down is saying, that guy's a fascist. That guy's Hitler. anybody who follows that guy is a Nazi, and they all deserve to die.
Took his life anyway, and they tried to take mine. Only the left does that. No one on the left is afraid or has to have $250,000 worth of security to have conversations. We need to address the problem. It's the reason for crime stats. I agree with you. We should sit down and have conversations. That's why I'm having it. Most people can't because we get killed, and that's a fundamental difference. I'll let you close. It's just because they're rushing us out. So.
Okay. I still disagree.
Okay.
I still disagree that
and that's okay. That is very okay to get up from this table and both walk away in a disagreement. It doesn't always have to wind up agreeing at the end of it, but if we can understand where each other are coming from, that's the underlying thing that should be realized.
I didn't say only, I said by and large. It's not proportionate. Far more violence from the left than the right. And the means of enforcement is violent. The means of enforcement from the left is violence.
I think there's also something to be said on the point that, which we won't have time, but that there's further oppression being pushed from the right on basic liberties, but that is more violence.
If we had time to get to it, I would, but absolutely. Taking away our guns, taking away our speech, taking away our kids if we don't transition them, that's the left's platform, and you find it from every single major leftist, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, all the way down. It'd be tough. It would be a conversation I'd love to have, but they're booting us because they don't want me to get shot, which kind of...
Yeah, it kind of, proves the point of the left is the violent ones. If he's like having to have his $250,000 of security, that at this point they're like, all right, we can't be here any longer because it could put your life in danger and could put the person he's sitting at the table with in danger too. Because what if the shooter's a bad shot like Dallas and misses? What if the left-wing violence accidentally claims more, people who would be associated with the left? It's like, come on.
Makes the point. Chris?
I would argue the universe not on the shot, but great to meet you.
Thank you, brother. No, thanks for being a good sport.
Absolutely.
Sorry we had to rush. Maybe next time we can do it for longer. And please take that and peruse those. Absolutely.
Great day.
God bless.
Does he have an outro?
Thank everyone.
Okay.
Well, that was a long time coming, and I want to thank everyone who made this even possible, and everyone who came out, everyone who had civil conversations. But I'm not stopping here. There are more conversations to be had, more places to visit, and more minds to change. Today was a good start, but it's just that, a start. And we'll continue right here tomorrow, so be sure to tune in at the same time, same place.
Yeah, that was Steven Crowder going back to campuses, with his Change My Mind. Now, this video is by far long enough, so if you are still here at this endpoint, I very much appreciate you sticking around. If you did stay around this long, go down to the comments and just somewhere within your comment, write the word cheetah. If I see anybody saying cheetah in the comments, I'll know that they made it all the way to the end. But anyways, smash the like button, hit the subscribe if you didn't, and have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!